Is it your alarm? Good morning. That is an alarm to wake up. If those of you who are watching, if it's morning where you are, or even if it's evening. We're on the pre-show drive. I'm Byron, but we'll get into the formalities a little bit later. We're just trying to head out this morning and listen out for any potential animals that we are looking for. Now, we have heard some ground hornbills not very far from us, but just a beautiful, beautiful sunrise that we were watching. So I thought, why not start the pre-show with a sunrise? Because that is just incredible. And you might be able to hear those ground hornbills now. Oh, and there's a that is the sound of a vehicle though. That's It's a beautiful morning. It's actually still very, very warm, or quite warm. And it's muggy. We're waiting for some rain. Hopefully soon we'll get some rain. And they predict rain for this weekend, so that could be interesting. Oh, wonderful bird calls at the moment. I'm sure you can hear the deep booming ground hornbills. Let's just listen to that for a second. It's a wonderful sound. What a great way to start the morning. Beautiful sunrise and ground hornbills booming in the background. And there was an African cuckoo who called earlier, but it just stopped now. I think, we always talk about it, and I don't know what you think, but they always say like a beautiful sunrise in Africa is soothing and good for the soul. I think so. So we're going to be starting the proper show soon. We just we do this pre-show just so everybody can kind of find the links and make sure that that they're ready to start watching the show. I know quite a few of you do start watching from the pre-show show. So we need to think of another name for that, I'm sure. I don't know. I think it's a bit too early for me to think of names. And what is everybody else doing around the world? Some of our viewers, I don't know what I'm trying to think. East coast of the United States, you 6 hours behind us now, I think. 6, or is it 7 even? 6 hours. So it's quite late at night for some of you, but maybe there are a few people watching. And it's Thanksgiving today for our American viewers. I think we may do something special for Thanksgiving a little bit later, or maybe on this afternoon's drive of the Sunset Safari, because then we'll probably have a lot more of our American viewers watching. There's a woodland kingfisher calling. We need to find one. We've heard them calling, but I haven't been able to see one properly. Anyway, we'll see you all shortly. We're probably going to head to Jamie soon for the start of the show.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome on another live safari adventure, starting off with one of the newest arrival on Djuma. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
You are live. And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome on our sunrise safari. This is hilarious. The young males don't know what this thing is. Hold on a moment. I'm just going to go forward and then I'll do all of the introductions and so on. But this is just far too cute to pass up the opportunity. My name is Jamie. This morning, Jandre is the man bringing you the amazing images. Byron is out on the vehicle with Zander, also known as Eggsy, and we are coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve. Would you... Hello, little one. Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And I'm sorry, I've turned a little mushy because this is the first baby impala I've seen this year. And it is just too adorable, and these young males don't know what it is. It's all confused. And they keep going up to go and sniff it, and then it gets a fright. Look, look, look. What is that? What is that? This strange little mini impala. They're very, very confused. And of course, it smells all interesting. Ah, what a magic way to start off a morning. Oh, now we're having a scuffle. Hormones are running wild. You two. And little one doesn't know what's going on. Panic! Isn't that incredible? Few hours old, already clean and dried. Might be the one that Brent saw a couple of days ago, the first baby impala lamb. No, that's a tree, Matiri. That's not your mom, that's a tree. All these new smells. All these new sensations. Where's Mom? You lost Mom. Look at that. That baby is not nearly old enough to be eating solid food. No, little one, that's not Mommy. That's a tree. Looks like it's licking up the termite. Look, it is. It's eating the termite residue. That's a first for me. I have never ever seen that before. Oh, young males come to investigate again. They are so perplexed by the presence of this little thing. Oh, now we're running away. Where's Mom? Where's Mom? Mom. Everybody looks the same. And now my mouth tastes funny because I've been eating termite stuff. Now you're running away from Mom, you silly little thing. You see the instincts to do that stotting motion. Oh, now we're running back. Prancing all over the place. Poor Mom's trying to get back to it. Nyalas are panicking. Impala are running everywhere. Baby's stotting. Oh, this is so cool. And we're gone. Wait, we're coming back. No, we're gone. No, we're back onto quarantine. Right, everybody, let's go and catch up with the mad baby impala. A cool way to start a morning. And now don't forget that because it is live, if you have any questions on this subject, you can send them through on hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. At the start of the show, Jandre really wanted us to have a look at the sunrise. I was insistent we stopped at the baby impala. Let's go and have a look at the sunrise from Byron's perspective.
Good morning officially, everyone, and we are watching this beautiful, beautiful sunrise. Really magnificent color in the sky at the moment. So beautiful. What a great start. We've had those ground hornbills calling in the distance. They seem to have just stopped now. And my name is Byron, and with me on camera this morning is Zonda, or Eggsy as we like to call him. And it's great to have all of you with us again. Looking forward to a morning game drive with you, or safari rather. We are in search of leopards. That's going to be my plan and aim for this morning. So we're going to head towards the southern part of the property and drive around these drainage lines, thicker areas, and hopefully look for any sign of leopard. That would be wonderful for today. Now, we know yesterday they did have tracks of the Karula female, or Karula, a beautiful female with her two youngsters, but crossing south, across our boundary, now I see lion tracks here, but now I'm just not sure if these are the tracks from yesterday. Possibly the males did walk through here. I just want to double check. I think so. And oh, this is interesting. So I'm just trying to have a look to see if there's anything that's walked on top of these tracks. But I do think those are the lion tracks, and I'll just double check here, but I think those are the lion tracks from yesterday morning. I know Brent followed them from here, and I think that's exactly what those are. Yes, it appears to be the case. Always want to make sure, you never know. I mean, we did have those two beautiful Birmingham males last night, and they performed wonderfully for us. We had 2-3 incredible roars right next to our vehicle, and it was wonderful to show all of you that. But in saying that, that roaring is used to communicate with the other males. So it could possibly be another one or two, because we know there are 4 brothers in that coalition that meet up occasionally, and maybe there was another one that walked through. But I think these tracks that we are seeing here are the ones from yesterday morning that or those ones that I saw earlier. From yesterday morning, it does appear as if the vehicle tracks and other animals have walked over those tracks, so it's not fresh at all. And I'm very jealous. We saw an impala lamb yesterday, but Jamie's got some more impala lambs, and what an amazing sighting to see them. Let's head back to her and see what they're up to.
We're still with the same impala lamb, and what an amazing way to start off a morning. Then to watch this little thing, already stable on its feet, already instinctively stotting, running around after mom. It is absolutely stunning. I can't help looking at this baby impala, thinking how tightly folded it must have been before the female gave birth. This was my first plan of the morning, was to actually drive around Quarantine and look at the new impala lambs. And we have definitely been rewarded. And welcome to Brandon. Lovely to have you on the Sunrise Safari. You want to know how long is the lambing season for impala? It goes all the way sort of to the point of about February. Beginning of February is usually when we get our latest births of impala lambs, and that's because with the initial rutting seasons, not all of the females fall pregnant. So we have a second rutting season, or a second mating season. So as a result, the births can extend all the way to February. But it's usually between November and January, the peak season of the births. And in fact, the biggest peak is now at the end of November. And we're going to see more and more and more of these little creatures. I'm hoping we're actually going to go, after we're finished here with this little impala lamb, we're going to do a tour of Quarantine. And Kelsey, Thank you for sending through your question. Kelsey's watching in Rhode Island. Kelsey would like to know, how long do baby impala stay with their moms? And I'm just going to stop here. I don't want to startle them. Not with this little one, still new to the world. If it's a female, they could end up staying with their moms for the rest of their lives. But they are completely weaned around about 6 months. And even a couple of weeks into the birthing season, the little lambs tend to stay away from their mom and in what is known as a creche. So they all gather together, all the little baby impalas gather together as a sort of safety and numbers approach. Oh, Mom, wait for me, Mom. Are you my mom? You're not my mom. Mom? You sure you're not my mom? No, sure my mom didn't have the pointy things on the top of her head. If it's a female, it could end up staying with her mom for the rest of her life, but her mom won't be paying much attention to her once they reach the rutting season once again. If it's a male, it will then, by about a year old, start splitting off. Whenever the next breeding season comes around, it's not actually a year, it's about 9 or so months. When the next breeding season comes around, they'll end up splitting off into bachelor groups, and that will be that in terms of their relationship with their moms. Now, I have a question for all of you. Why was that baby impala licking the termite mound? I mean, the termites on the tree. It was totally bizarre to me. And I don't know if it was a nutritional thing or just an instinctive sucking motion, like puppies and kittens and so on sucking on your finger if you put it there. Oh, that's beautiful. Now, Shamson, you wanted to know, if a baby impala were to lose its mom, would another female take care of it? Usually not. So in the wild, you'll often see, run little one, run! You'll often see the females, whenever a youngster mistakes them for mom. Morning, Rex! Morning, everybody! Whenever the impala or baby zebra or baby wildebeest or baby zebra makes a mistake and approaches another female, there's Rex having a look at the new baby impala. Whenever they approach them, they get head-butted or kicked. So if it's a female with a baby, or another live baby, then she probably won't. If perhaps the female that is doing the adopting had perhaps lost its own baby, then there is a chance that they might look after the little one. It would be very, very unusual, though. I love the two male Inyala just sort of casually walking along behind spectators. But yes, I want to know why that impala lamb was suckling or nibbling on that sort of crusty termite residue along the tree. Nope, I don't think that's Mom. There's Mom. There's Mom. Doing some good cleaning. Here we go, little one. Oh! Mom hasn't quite got used to the idea of what suckling involves, which is some really thorough headbutts to the lower abdomen in order to stimulate milk. All right, we'll stop and enjoy the view for a second because the clouds are gorgeous. We'll stop and take it in for a moment. Isn't that beautiful? While we take in this view, of course, Michelle wants to know what the survival rate is of baby impala. We discussed this the other day on Drive, and I haven't been able to find definitive figures for this part of the world, Michelle. And somebody else asked me the same question, and I guessed at around 50-odd%, 40 to 50%, I think was my answer, but it was really entirely a guess. And I'm just trying to find some information on the subject or some actual proper research on the subject, because of course it will differ depending upon where you are in South Africa. Lion concentration, leopard concentration, wild dog concentration, cheetah, predator concentration essentially. I'm going to go trundling along around quarantine while we think about this. I'm going to go look for more babies. So it very much differs from area to area, and I have been trying to find the answer to that. When I do get a definitive answer on the survival rate, I will update you and I will let you know. We just stop for one last look, just one last look. And then I promise I'll move on. I don't really want to though. Perhaps it was just an exploring its world kind of thing, that it was busy nibbling away on that bark. Like hyenas chewing on sticks. It's so cute. And Lindsay, you've suggested perhaps it was looking for salt. It's a possibility that occurred to me, and I'm going to try and find out, Lindsay, because I think that's a very, very good suggestion. Look, it's licking the ground now as well. And usually geophagy is explained by supplementing minerals. In other words, the process of eating dirt is so that the animal concerned can up its levels of sodium and so on. So that's entirely possible, but it's amazing that there's that instinct already. Look, still, I think that's exactly what it's doing. It's eating dirt. It could also be eating dung, particularly from mom, since coprophagy is also very common in baby animals to help to pass on the digestive enzymes. Well, at some point I'm going to have to tear myself away from this baby impala and this view and go off in search of other things. In the meantime, Byron has found something much, much larger than our impala lamb.
We have indeed found something much larger, and I'm just keeping my voice down. This big hippo, just in a small little mud wallow. And I'm just keeping a close eye on it because, and I'll tell you why, everyone, but usually hippo prefer being in water holes where they can submerge, especially if they feel a bit threatened. And we came around the corner, and this hippo would have heard us coming, but we got a bit of a surprise in seeing it in this mud wallow, very small little pan or wallow. And I think what's happened is this hippo's been moving around feeding during the course of the evening, and what's happened is it's come across this area and thought, well, this is possibly a good place to rest for the day. So when it does start getting warmer, it can roll around and it can still cover itself a little bit in mud and the water. But when they are exposed like this, and they can be a little bit unpredictable. And I have had hippo come out of a little pan like this at us before and give us a bit of a charge. So that's why I'm just watching very, very carefully. Also don't really want to disturb the hippo too much. It seems relaxed at the moment, but isn't this incredible? It's not often you get this close to a hippo. I mean, we're probably only about 10 to 15 meters away. So it is very, very close. And look at the hairs on that nostril, on the snout, rather. Don't often get to see that. Isn't that strange? They are strange animals. It looks like it's almost a little bit, it looks like it's very wary of us, keeping a close eye on us. Don't forget, everybody, we are completely live. So send us your questions or your comments, either via Twitter at #SafariLive, or email us questions@wildearth.tv, and we'll gladly answer your questions for you, and we love hearing from our viewers. This is a very special sighting. I'm enjoying this, but I am still very, very careful. As I said, it looks like this is an older hippo too. Just judging by the ears, they look a little bit worn. And I'm probably going to move on fairly shortly and leave it. Hopefully I don't disturb it too much. I think we might do that now, but what a great surprise, and that's exactly what's happened. It's been moving around feeding, and it's coming to this little water source at the moment. Sorry, I do usually turn the other way, but I want to keep watching it just in case. Lorena, you want to know if this hippo is a bit skinny, and it does look like it is in fairly bad condition. And again, we need to remember, it's because coming out of the drought, a lot of these animals, and a hippo is a grazer, it feeds on grass, and there isn't a lot of grass around at the moment, so they have lost a lot of condition, and you can see the bones on the back and the hips quite clearly. So yes, Lorena, it is skinny, and that's another reason we do need to just be wary and be careful. Again, the animals generally aren't out to get us, but if we threaten them, or if they feel threatened in any way or uncomfortable, they'll react in one of two ways: either leave this little water hole and run away, or come out and charge at us, especially these hippos. So, but they aren't. This one doesn't look like it's had a lot of food, but now with all the green grass around, it should be a bit better. However, that grass needs to get a bit longer. It's not as easy for this hippo to feed on that shorter grass. So hopefully it does get some food soon. Or substantial food, rather. Alright, I think we're going to leave this hippo to wallow. I'm just going to see what happens when it starts, when I start the vehicle. Hopefully we don't disturb it. And that's alright. Thank you very much. Well, that was a nice surprise. That was wonderful. Yeah, the hippo's still there, very, very happy. Now, we heard some ground hornbills earlier this morning while we were watching the sunrise. Jamie has found them.
And it is a morning full of lovely surprises, and we just keep getting better in the form of a pair of magnificent, oh, that was a badly timed moment to say the word magnificent ground hornbills as they go about their morning foraging. Now, they're not totally relaxed, but I'm going to try and get a little bit closer now that they've waddled off in the direction of the DRC, which is the camp, not the actual country. They're not going off towards, well, they are sort of going towards DRC, the country, but are sort of really far away. Very, very far away. James Richards says that the ground hornbill is a very fitting bird for today. And happy Thanksgiving to all of you who are celebrating it. I hope that you have a lovely day. And yes, very good point, James. It is a turkey-sized bird for a turkey-themed day. Just definitely not one we're going to be thinking of eating, given that they are one of our most endangered species. But yes, happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and I'm hoping you are loving the sunrise safari. This morning is certainly giving us a lot to be thankful for. Alex actually told us that there were ground hornbill around, but I was a little bit concerned that in my excitement, no, don't run away, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. In my excitement over the impala lamb, that perhaps I had missed out on the opportunity to see them. I'm thrilled to see that they are still around. As James says, they are turkey-sized birds, absolutely massive and quite a powerful bird. They're around about 6 kilograms, give or take, depending if it's a male or a female. Which equates to about 13-14 pounds. So quite a heavy, quite a robust bird. And you can see from the massive size of their bill that they are a bird that's geared towards things like breaking and crushing. Things like tiny tortoises will fall prey to their bills. Snakes, they are particularly good snake catchers, which is one of the things that the conservation projects around ground hornbills try to focus on in terms of education. They are, because they're birds, the matter of their conservation becomes even more complicated, because you can't exactly release them into an area and expect them to stay necessarily. They've got wings and they can fly wherever they want to. Now, they have a tendency to go and smash windows. They see their reflection in it and they think, oh, enemy, and they go and attack it. And it's one thing when a yellow-billed hornbill does it, which is just a tiny passerine, but when a ground hornbill does it, you almost invariably end up with shattered glass. And as a result, people have come to view them as very much as a nuisance. And one of the educational programs that people have been trying to implement in the various communities around reserves where you're likely to find ground hornbill is to try and educate people on the fact that these birds can actually be more of a help than they are a hindrance. So, for example, perhaps clearing one's area of snakes would be one very useful facet of these magnificent birds. And they are magnificent. That striking dark black color. And we're so fortunate to be able to spend time with them because they are, as I said, one of the most endangered species that we get out here. They're one of the apex avian predators. They're also critically endangered. Luckily, it seems as though the ground hornbill populations are making a comeback. But for those of you that perhaps are planning a visit to the Kruger National Park or in fact other areas of South Africa, if you see a ground hornbill with a tag around its leg or a tag upon its wing, most of the reserve management or perhaps the gate staff will know the ways in which you can go about reporting that to the people in the know. Mainly that will be the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project. And they research and they track these beautiful birds, and they are actively involved in reintroducing them to areas where they would have occurred in the past. Look at that. Wonder what that was. It was very pale, very, very white, whatever that substance was that it just ate. Personally, my favorite part of the ground hornbill is their eyelashes. I really like their eyelashes. The way they turn their heads. You see those massive wings folded over each other. Now, they can fly, even though they are quite bulky birds. They are capable of flight. It's quite a heavy, quite a clumsy flight initially, much like vultures. And they tend to be more terrestrial than anything else. But if they are threatened, they can take to the trees, and they do nest in trees. This is a magnificent male. Absolutely magnificent. See incredibly powerful legs built for kicking. And there is number 2. Pretty sure that's the female. It's either a female or a juvenile, but it looks like a female to me. I didn't get a good enough look at its face. It does look like quite a young bird. And typically the females have a slight blue patch underneath their chin. They also don't have such prominent red facial pouches. While our male hornbill struts his stuff, let's go over to Byron and have a look at the antelope he has.
Now, some of you may remember a few weeks ago, James and I did our impression of an Inyala dominance dance or display, and you've unfortunately just missed it. But you could see the hair on the back of that Inyala is still standing upright, and they did that beautiful slow movement, that lifting the legs very, very slowly, walking in circular motion around one another, just to try and establish dominance and to see who is the bigger male, one of the better dance. Very, very interesting. I'll walk very slowly. We might still see it because that other male is coming back. So I'm going to hang around with these males a bit. Let's just see it. It would be wonderful if they do it again. Beautiful Inyala males. These are 2 fairly large Inyala bulls. The other one seems to be moving off a bit. That one's enjoying some green leaves, a bit of grass here, but I think it's actually feeding on tiny little shrubs. The Inyala is a browser, so it does prefer leaves. Let's see, go and follow the other one, and let's see if we can get another display from the 2 of you. It is a wonderful, wonderful display, and it's very entertaining to watch. Very graceful. The movement, the slow movement, the arched back. Hang on, okay. Let's move forward and see. Come on. This would be great if they display again for us. I'm hoping. Where did the other one go? Okay, they're up here, but hang on a second. Let me just come around this side. Let's see now, that one male in the front is walking away. Doesn't seem like he is. Well, hang on. It's always tricky. You never know what these animals are going to do. Are they going to display? Are they not? Look, they're raising that mane a little bit, the hair around the back, especially this one here. Very, very beautiful coloration to these Inyala. I mean, if you look at the contrast between those brown, light brown legs, which is a similar color to the females, and then that dark gray body with the white stripes. No, they seem to have finished their display. Let's see, the other one is just moving off through the back. You can see him over there. Look how, sorry, look how narrow his horns are. I don't know what happened there, I apologize. Look how narrow those horns are. That's very interesting. Just shows you how different horn structures can occur in antelope, and you'll also see it very, very often with kudu. So one of the other antelope with these large spiral horns, you see different shapes. Some are very, very wide and some are really narrow. So these two were quite different. That male that we saw now, those horns actually came together and were very narrow compared to the other one. The other one's horns were a bit wider apart. They are moving off at the moment. I think they've finished displaying, but wonderful to see them nonetheless. We're approaching a little dam now, little water hole. So I'm hoping I don't know, it looks like, and I can see tracks over here, looks like these two male lions that we had last night, these two Birmingham males, headed back up further into Vuyatela. But in the opposite direction to what we're going at the moment. Remember, we said our plan is to try and find some leopards. But it's always nice to find a big cat, especially the lions early in the mornings. But I didn't hear them this morning. I was trying to listen. I didn't hear them. And also, if they were moving around a lot during the course of the evening, they could be right beyond our boundary at the moment. And we saw that. Oh, look, some impala fighting, male impala having a little go at each other. Sorry, is that all right? Now, that's interesting because it's not the rutting season or anything, but how we say boys will be boys, challenging each other. Now, the rutting season for impala is around April, May. And that's when the males really get into it and they start fighting and snorting and trying to fight for dominance to be able to mate with females. There is a second rut later in the year for those females that haven't been covered. But at the moment, there shouldn't be a rut on. I think these males are just testing one another, perhaps learning. So, Jeremy, you wanted to know if the impala are anything like the deer that you have in the USA. So, Jeremy, no, technically not. So, a deer, I'll tell you the main difference between deer and impala. So, impala fall under a family known as antelope, and deer are deer, if that makes sense. But the difference between deer and antelope is that the deer grow antlers, which they shed annually, so they lose their antlers, whereas antelope and all antelope species grow horns, and the horns grow throughout their lifetime. They never lose them. So those impala that we just saw over there, you could see those two males with those beautiful horns that they've got. Deer wouldn't have horns, they'd have antlers. So they Let's quickly head to Jamie. I think she's got something interesting.
Sorry to rush you across, but just listen. My absolute favorite, one of my favorite sounds. Such a beautiful primitive sound. Like some kind of ancient civilization playing the drums. You can actually hear the vibrations through the cask, that hollow opening in the top of its beak. The others are responding. There's actually 3 of them here, but we can only see this one for now. He's gonna, let's just be patient, he's gonna pop out on the other side of this bush at some point. Such a beautiful, beautiful sound. Slightly softer than its normal call. It's all about contact calling this call. Different members of the group listening to each other. Love that sound. How cool is that? It is just one of the best sounds in the bush. I just wanted to let us sit in silence for a moment and just take in the atmosphere of that call, because that's what it does. It creates an atmosphere. I don't know how to describe it. I think most of you will know what I mean about the sort of it's so primal. I don't know how to describe it. It's a beautiful sound. It's lovely to see them, and as I said, there's 3, not 2 as we saw before. Now, Deborah, you wanted to know if that is its mating call. Deborah, no, it's its contact call. So the 2 of them walked ahead, and I'm going to have to go back on myself. We're about to bump into Alex, who is right behind us. I think Alex is just going for a drive, going on an adventure. But we're going to go and loop around them. And Deborah, no, it's not a mating call. But it is a contact call, particularly between the male and the female. But really, it connects the whole group. So I think the one that I thought was a female is a juvenile, and the female was walking a little way off to the left of it, and we just didn't see it. Now I'm going to go. Bear with me. We've got to go all the way around to get there. We're not going to go off-road for the ground hornbill, so we're going to have to do a big loop to get back across to them. And welcome to Janice, who obviously is enjoying the beautiful ground hornbill. Janice, you want to know, why are ground hornbills endangered? Is it because of hunting? Not so much hunting, although poaching would be an issue with ground hornbills. There are some traditional medicinal beliefs connected to them. I've never been able to find out what they are. I just know that they exist. I know that there's some kind of connection to the use of ground hornbill in what's known as muti, or local medicine, traditional medicine. The biggest threat to these amazing birds is their habitat loss. So as you know, there is such a delicate, are they still calling? There's such a delicate balance in nature. And human beings, in terms of the impact that we've had, have been absolutely... Some species have just fared worse than others in terms of our encroachment into their lives, and the ground hornbill have not done well. They take about 7 years to reach sexual maturity, so it's quite a slow-growing creature, and the parents invest a huge amount of time and attention in just one chick, kind of like elephants and also kind of in a way like human beings. So it takes them a long time to reproduce. They're also picky reproducers, so they're very picky about their nesting sites. They will return to the same nesting site time and time and time again, and they nest in sort of hollows of big trees. And another thing that's been blamed for the loss of ground hornbill, which I have to say I think is absolute nonsense, is the overpopulation of elephants in South Africa. And because the elephants are overpopulated, so the argument goes, which I don't believe personally, but this is the argument, that they push down the nesting sites. I mean, I don't know. Bizarre, totally bizarre reasoning to me. But anyway, that's the argument that's put forward. But mostly it's humans' impact. And now? How did that even work? Fine. Everything's out to get me. Watch out, John Dread's screwing it again. That might have been a slight overreaction on my part, but it was thorny. So I feel as though it was it was reasonable. What was I talking about? Ground hornbills. Yeah, I was actually talking about quite a serious subject before the tree tried to behead me. Yes, we were talking about nesting sites, and I actually have a suspicion that this group is nesting somewhere, if not close to Djuma, then around Djuma. It's just because we hear them call every single morning, and it makes me wonder if they don't have a secret little nest somewhere. On that subject, we had a question, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten who asked it because I got distracted by my near evisceration by tree. Melinda, you want to know how long it takes the eggs to hatch. Melinda, I don't remember. I did used to know. I think it is round about just over a month, but I see you, ground hornbill, walking through the trees. I think it is just over a month, but to be completely honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. I did used to work with ground hornbills, with the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project, in a minor way, but we used to go and check the eggs as soon as we found a ground hornbill nesting site. We used to go and take the second egg away from them as soon as the first egg hatched, and that's because their second egg is just an insurance policy. The second chick never survives. It is, as soon as one chick hatches, just that advantage of being a day or two older than its sibling, it will either kill its own sibling, or the sibling will die as a result of just being out-competed and not fed by the parents because the other chick is bigger and stronger. Something you'll be very familiar with if you follow the life cycles of things like eagles, lots of the big birds, shoebills, and so on. So if any of you know exactly how long the incubation period is for a ground hornbill, I did used to know. I actually had it. I can see the pamphlet that it was written on that was distributed by the Ground Hornbill Project, and I cannot for the life of me remember. Sorry. Michael, you wanted to know, because of course we've discussed the fact that the chicks are very slow growing. You want to know how long will the offspring stay with their parents until they go off to find their own partners and their own breeding potential. Michael, they are cooperative breeders, so in other words, the offspring will stay with the parents and help them raise the next generation. And hold that thought, because we're going to come back to it. So it's over 7 years that it will take them to disperse, and it can be even longer. And sometimes, if my memory serves, there's evidence to suggest that sometimes they don't ever leave at all. They just don't breed. So you get an idea of what a complex creature a ground hornbill is in terms of their family structure. And their highest mortality rate comes as lions. So many sounds today. Right, sorry. The highest mortality comes, from what I remember about the research, when they are dispersing. Sorry, I just got distracted by lions roaring, because we're so spoiled for choice this morning. Oh, why did you stop there? Keep going. There we go. Oh, I was going to talk about the fact that they stay and they help their parents raise chicks. Much like jackal do, actually. And evidence, or sort of all of the knowledge that the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project and other such projects have gathered, is that a hornbill will not be successful in raising its own chicks unless it has practiced with its parents' chicks. How fascinating is that? So that process of cooperative breeding not only helps the parents, but it actually teaches the little ones how to look after and how to care for a chick in a nest, which is a very interesting thing. They're a little bit like pandas, in a way, just thinking about it. Obviously there's some subtle differences, fur as opposed to feathers, and what you got there, Gendre? Bug. I don't want to squash it. Sorry. Gendre found a friend this morning.
Oh.
I don't think it wanted to be separated from you, Gendre.
Understandable.
I know. I obviously didn't want to be near me. It wanted only Gendre. It was a purple bug. I can't tell you what it was. Marianne's on the same page as me. Marianne is saying that she loves the call of the ground hornbills and that she finds it very similar to a male lion's roar, which of course we just heard now as well, and that it's very earthy and primal. That's exactly how I feel. It's a very, very primal sound. I love it. It's doot 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 doot. It is like some kind of ancient instrument. There's no other bird call except perhaps the Verreaux's eagle owl that compares. Oh, and maybe an ostrich. But I think the ground hornbills is the most beautiful of the lot. Hey, mister? I'm quite a long way behind your family. Although we have managed to catch up with them. Call again for us, please. You only hear them calling first thing in the morning and in the evening. They're not birds that continue to sing or to call throughout the day. And that's how we used to try and find their nest sites. We used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or be out at 3 o'clock in the morning, because they start calling from their nests as soon as it gets light. And that's what makes me wonder if they don't have a nest somewhere here, because just the fact that we're hearing them before sunrise every morning. But we used to go racing off in the vague direction that we hoped there maybe was a ground hornbill nest, and then stop and listen. Have our coffee and just listen. And as soon as we heard them, all coffee was thrown out. We raced off, all jumped back in the car, raced as close as possible to where we could to the tree. Then we'd jump out of the car and start running through the bush, which is not, of course, we didn't do that with guests. We just did it on our own, because you shouldn't really run through the bush. But we used to, let's say we did a very fast march through the bush to try and get there before they leave, because otherwise trying to find a ground hornbill nest is a very tricky thing indeed. But hopefully things are looking up for the ground hornbill as a species. As our ground hornbill toddle off, I think I'm probably going to leave them to go about their morning business. Let's go over to Byron for an update.
All right, so we haven't had too much luck with anything else, but what an amazing sighting of those ground hornbills. We could hear them calling this morning. We unfortunately didn't get to see them, but to have them so close to the vehicle, or that one especially, and calling like that is very special. I'm so glad you got to see it. So what I've been doing, everyone, is just driving along the southern boundary, the Gowrie access, just to have a look if we've got any signs of leopards crossing in and out. And it is sometimes tricky to drive and look for tracks at the same time, but no sign just yet. I've been hoping that we hear some alarm calls perhaps. That is a huge help in finding animals, especially predators. You listen to alarm calls from other species, other animals like all the herbivores. A lot of the antelope all have different and unique alarm calls, and that does help a lot at finding predators. And then we were chatting earlier about the difference between antelope and deer. As I said, the main difference is that the antelope have horns and the deer have antlers. That is the main difference. The digestive system is very much the same. Also, we don't... So historically we don't have any deer in Africa. The deer are mainly up in North America and up in Europe. We have introduced, or people have introduced, some species of deer into South Africa or Southern Africa, but they don't occur within the national parks. That would be in certain areas that perhaps farmers have introduced them purely for hunting purposes. So I know down in the Eastern Cape, so the southeastern part of South Africa, they have introduced fallow deer, which comes from the UK, I believe, and that was mainly for hunting purposes, so for venison. But up in these areas, in the natural areas, there are no deer, only antelope species, and quite a few different species of antelope. Right, I'm going to continue checking this boundary road all the way around, because it would be wonderful if we do have any sign of a leopard. Or what tracks are these? Let me just have a look. Let me see if I can show these to you, and I might be able to. I think so. Exit. Let me see if I can. Can you see that little scuff mark in the sand over there? Let me get out quickly and see if I can show it to you. I think you should get it at this angle. Let's just see if I can show you quickly. Let me just try and get a stick. A bit easier to point out with a stick. Where is this track? Okay, here we go. Let me just see. Can you see this one over here? Can you see that? It's a bit tricky. This is a hyena track, everyone. And I'm trying to see if there's another clearer one. And here is another one. If we just come a little bit this way. There's another one there. Can you see that? Okay, so what I wanted to show you with the hyena tracks, and this hyena was probably moving around during the course of the evening, but it's easily identifiable, and this is the back pad. So let me show you with the stick. That is the back pad. I'll trace around it. That section over there. So the back pad of the hyena track. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Now, the hyena track, what makes it different to big cats, so leopard or lion moving around, because this is a fairly large track. Some people might look at it and go, oh, there's a cat that's walked past here. But hyena track at the back pad, it actually has 2 lobes. So what I mean by that is this lobe extends around the back and it bends in slightly and then comes out to form a second lobe. So only 2 lobes right at the back of the pad, whereas all the big cats have got 3 very clear lobes. So you'll see 1, 2, 3 at the back pad. And then also the interesting thing with the hyena track, and to be honest, a good tracker would probably just see that section of the track and they would still be able to tell you that it's a hyena. And the reason for that is this toe. And a lot of these toes, especially these outer ones, are kidney-shaped. So they're easily to identify. Whereas the big cats, all their tracks, the toes are very, very round, very circular, and not this kidney shape like this hyena. The other thing you might be able to pick up is some claw marks, and there's one or two just over here. It's very difficult to see, and I doubt you'll be able to make it out. You might be able to, and it's also generally if they're standing in deep sand, you'll be able to pick up on the claws a bit easier. But the reason for that is the hyena don't have retractable claws like the big cats do, like lion or leopard. So with those cat tracks, you won't necessarily see the claws unless it's a cheetah. Remember, the cheetah don't have retractable claws, and the reason for that is that when they are running at top speeds, they use their claws for traction, so their claws are not retractable, whereas lion and leopards, they are. But all three of those big cats have got a very clear W at the back, or 3 lobes at the back of the pad, whereas the hyena, those very clear 2 lobes. I think it's a bit too early to bend down like that. But it's nice to see, and we haven't seen any hyena walking around for quite some time. And again, my theory is that because of all the lion activity, but who knows, there are hyena around, there are clear signs of them around. We might see some. I heard some early this morning. I did hear hyena in the distance, quite far away from camp. All right, now we've been looking at some tracks, and one of the best times to look for tracks is actually when you're walking through the bush. And Steph has just got out on his bushwalk. Let's see what he's up to. Oh dear, it sounds like Steph is just having some audio issues there quickly. They'll sort that out soon. And we'll head back to him and he'll say good morning. But these tracks of this hyena, they've come all along the road. So I walked along here during the course of the evening. This is interesting. They've actually walked up and down the road, so backwards and forwards. And that can sometimes be a good sign. It could possibly be that there may have been a predator in the area that the hyena were following. Now, hyena are scavengers. And what they do is they're very opportunistic, and I've seen it before. They occasionally follow animals like leopards. The reason for a leopard being followed is it's a bit easier to chase off of a kill as opposed to a lion, obviously. Lions are much bigger. And hyena will take a chance, try and chase a leopard off a kill, but I have also seen leopards stand their ground, especially big males. They don't like hyena, and they'll stand their ground and keep a hyena away. But if it's a female, and if she manages to kill something, often the hyena will run in, chase the female away, and try and scavenge some of the kill, whatever it is that they've got. I'm just looking, making sure I don't see tracks or signs of anything else, any other predator moving around here, but it looks like it's just the hyena that's moved up and down here. It's a lovely morning. It started off fairly warm, and then the temperature dropped as the sun rose, and we had to put on some jerseys and jackets. But it's still very, very pleasant. It's a lovely morning, very, very nice morning. We had a beautiful sunrise. I think it's probably going to be a very hot day again today, unless the cloud cover comes over. And I know from guiding in the past, guiding guests, they'd always say, well, what is the weather going to be like today? And I'd say, well, let's wait till 8:30, about 8:30, and then I'll make a call, because I've seen it so often where we start off on a morning and it's a beautiful, beautiful, clear morning. And all of a sudden the clouds come over, and then it's cloudy and overcast for the rest of the day. Or it happens the opposite way around. Starts off cloudy and overcast, and then it clears up. scanning to see if there are perhaps any birds of prey sitting around in some of these big trees. Did you see what I saw? I thought I saw one fly off. I thought I saw a vulture fly off. Hang on. Ah, there it is sitting. Well spotted, Eggsy. Can you get it through there? Let's have a look there. The light might be a bit tricky, but let's see. Looked like a vulture sitting in the tree. A bunch of them, look at that. Ah, interesting. A lot of vultures. I wonder why all those vultures are there. This is a very, very thick area. Now, often what happens, and we've seen in the past, the last few weeks, quite a few buffalo dying because of the drought and not having enough food and really struggling. And with a lot of these buffalo carcasses, we have seen quite a lot of vulture activity. The lions have been attracted to some of them. But I wonder if there isn't perhaps another buffalo carcass around there. Those look like white-backed vultures. That's exactly what they are, the white-backed vultures. So there's potentially a carcass in there. Now, we know the Nkuhuma Pride were north of our boundary yesterday. So I highly doubt that this is from a lion kill, because we're quite far from where they were found yesterday and where they ended up moving to. And also the vultures wouldn't necessarily fly not necessarily, they wouldn't at all. They wouldn't fly at night, because the vultures rely on the thermals to pick up hot air as it rises, and they use that to fly and soar around looking for food. So what's happened here is these vultures were most likely got here yesterday already. That's why I'm leaning towards a carcass that has died, possibly of natural causes. Also, don't think it's a leopard kill, and the reason for that is because leopards tend to hide their kills very, very well, so that vultures don't see them. They don't want to attract any attention to them unnecessarily. And I think what I'm going to do is I might just take a little walk into the bush here quickly, just see if I can't see any sign of a carcass and what these vultures have been attracted to. And speaking of carcass, Steph actually has a carcass that he'd like to show you on the walk.
Good morning. We definitely do have a carcass over here, and just as perplexing as that tree full of vultures is to Byron, so is this particular kill. This one has been lying here now for about 3 weeks. It's an adult waterbuck, and it died here along with another waterbuck, which is just at the base of that tree. Which is quite odd, is the fact that these two are lying very close together, but they don't seem to have been killed by a lion, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what killed this. I would presume that it died of natural causes. It died of the drought is what I'm trying to say. And by that I mean probably either malnutrition or just dehydration, or one of the two. And I'll go into a little bit more now of what I think is going on over here, and at least what the bush is doing with it. So at the moment you've got all these little bugs and beetles that are eating off the last little bits of flesh adhering to the bones underneath the skin, and they'll pretty much pick the carcass clean. Then the keratin bugs, or the beetles, and the moth larvae will come in and will finish off the hair and the skin. Some animals like porcupine and honey badger, hyena, will then follow and dismember this carcass slowly but surely over the next couple of years, really, and start to spread it out into the bush to where we'll eventually just be left with a scattering of bones here. What is quite interesting, that very, very little goes to waste. What we're looking at now is a carcass that's about 3 weeks old, crawling with bugs and beetles. The flies and the maggots have pretty much moved on. We've just got some keratin beetles here. They're already starting to feed on the fur. Those are keratin beetles, and they will eat the hair. And it's not that smelly, to be honest with you. It's got this musty smell when you're sitting downwind of it. It's not the most pleasant smell, but it definitely isn't nauseating at all. And this was where the tummy contents was. This was inside the stomach of this waterbuck. They are grass feeding, they're grazers. And so you could expect to find, and we do find, a bunch of very fine grass shards, mainly which have been utilized by termites already. So you can see by these sandy tunnels, this is where the termites have come up from underneath the ground and have pretty much eaten out this tummy contents here from the ground up, leaving literally just the last little bits of the hardest grass. Isn't it interesting? I suppose I could take this time to introduce myself now finally. We had a little bit of an audio issue, you know, coming to you live from the African bush out here does present itself at least with some challenges from time to time. My name is Stefan Winterboer. I'm a wilderness trails guide, and on camera today we have VM. There we go, saying hello to you. All right, what are we doing on foot, you may ask? Well, exploring Africa on foot pretty much been happening for the last couple of 100 years, really. Let's go and have a look over there. Now, Honey Ocelot, you've asked me if or when the carcass will stop smelling. It doesn't actually smell that unpleasant now, 3 weeks down the line. We haven't even had any decent rain just yet. I suppose it'll stop smelling completely in another 2 weeks or so, where everything will just be too dried out. The sun at the moment when it does come out is quite intense, and once the rain washes away the last little bits of skin and meat and starts to disperse it, then it really doesn't smell at all. As to how long it is before I'd be comfortable picking up a bone of one of these animals that have died here, probably next season only. I would wait for a decent amount of time for the rain to wash anything off here. One of the diseases that afflicts the ruminating animals out here is anthrax. And anthrax spores can stay active, although dormant, but they can stay alive basically for many, many, many years, many dozens of years. In some cases, I've even heard of even hundreds of years for an anthrax spore to stay dormant. So you don't want to go and touch things like tummy contents and everything like that, not this time of the year after the type of drought that we had. Let's go and see what's happened to this one. This is another one that's why I say that they haven't been killed by lions. They may have been fed briefly on by lions, but the carcasses are not dismembered. Lions tend to dismember a carcass and leave it scattered around. As they fight and jostle for food scraps, they can quite often tear off a limb. They tear the carcasses in half, tearing off a head, and they'll each take a piece or a prize and take it underneath a bush somewhere close by, and you quite often find relatively fresh carcasses, just slightly more spread. What killed these two? They look almost exactly the same age, to be honest with you. I would say probably either the same disease or on the same hot, dry day, they just succumbed to either dehydration or just malnutrition. Their bodies just couldn't take it. Here you're looking inside the rib cage. That would have been where the Now, Marco, you've asked me, do waterbuck suffer? It's a good question, considering and what we've seen with those little lights. I suppose that they could suffer from mange mite, Marco. I mean, I can't imagine why they would be, why they couldn't be, why they wouldn't suffer from mange. I would imagine that they could catch it very similar to how other animals could, at least anyway. Have I ever seen a waterbuck with mange? No, I haven't seen a waterbuck with mange. Similar to, I've never seen a zebra with mange either, or one of the smaller antelope. I've never seen a grey duiker or steenbuck with mange either. It tends to be sort of confined to giraffe and to lion, really, which is I've seen lots of mange on. I suppose if I put my mind to it, I could probably remember kudu. That's what VM says, yes, kudu with some mange. So yes, the mange mite can afflict any of these animals. Whether they succumb to it or not is a different story, I suppose. Right, now back to the reason why we are being explored, first exposed on foot and on horseback for hundreds of years, and then when the vehicles came in about 100 years ago, we started to travel in a vehicle. Like humans on foot, we have never been hunting animals in the Kruger National Park from a car. And so the reason why you get so close to these animals from a vehicle is because they completely trust people in a car. They don't associate people in a car with any sort of danger whatsoever. Whereas man on foot is the sort of apex bipedal predator on the planet and has been for many, many years. And man on horseback also represents a fair danger to them. And so their distance that they're comfortable with you approaching to is slightly different. So what can we expect? We can expect to get closer to big animals, big dangerous animals in a car. But what we can do is get you much closer to the smaller and just as interesting things on foot. And that's what we're going to try and do and show you today. But on that note, and I'm sure just because Jamie is still pattering around here, I'm going to get it in the neck for that one. Why don't we send you to
Well done, Jandre. Bravo. Jamie Patterington. I have a mystery track, and I don't quite know exactly what it is. I am, however, really enjoying not having a door. So I'm sitting here very comfortably examining the track on the ground. I drove over it before I saw it and then went back to it. It's not a drag mark. I think I know what it is. I'm going to jump out and have a look. I think I know what it is, but it's quite a peculiar one. Oh, that was so easy to do. I think it's very difficult to see, and I know it's quite difficult for all of you in this light, but I think these tracks on either side are the giveaway. And because you can't see it that clearly, I'm going to describe them to you. It's a sweep, an outwards facing sweep, just a slight sweep on each little track on either side of this. And that to me suggests a terrapin. So terrapins often drag their shells on the ground. So you often see far more than you do with tortoises. Tortoises are much better at walking because they are, of course, purely terrestrial, whereas terrapins spend most of their time in water. So they'll drag their shell around, and I think we've even got the imprint of the tail. If we look really, really closely here, we've got the imprint of the tail as well. This terrapin was going in that direction, and I can see that even if I couldn't see the sweep of the feet. They also often drag their feet more than tortoises do. They walk like this with their front feet. I think that is what it is. An odd track though. It's a very odd track and quite unusual to see it in this form. But that is what it is. It's a long way from water, this poor terrapin, unless it knows something that we don't. They can cover enormous distances. Not hiding here somewhere. No. They can cover relatively large distances over land. They're not purely water-based. But this one's going to have a hard time finding water in that direction. The closest water in that direction is, at this point, unless it rains, Red Dam. It's probably the closest water. There's no water left in the pans on Impala Road. That's a long way for a little terrapin to go. They can survive for quite a long time, though, outside of water. So they basically just, if they can't get to water and there's been no rain, they can just sort of go back into their estivation period and find themselves a nice sheltered spot where it's not too hot, it's perfectly comfortable, possibly even underground, although I'm not sure if terrapins ever go underground. I know speaks do, which is a type of tortoise. Now there you go, an interesting track. I'm sorry I drove over it before I noticed it. I was not paying attention. Now for those of you, I've just remembered now that I'm driving, for those of you that feel as though you're on a roller coaster with us, it is because unfortunately we have a minor problem with the camera. So it's not that I'm just driving like a reckless hooligan, more so than I normally do. It's the fact that the camera is causing that feeling as though you're on a roller coaster. So we are going to go back and change the camera so that you don't feel as if you're going to throw up every time I drive. Now driving really slowly. Really slowly. I've left my ground hornbill for now. Obviously, they did move off into some dense vegetation. How's the rocking motion going, Rebecca? Hello? Ah, there we go. Beck says it's like a lullaby. Does it feel like a lullaby? I hope so. I hope it's very soothing, but please don't fall asleep. You might miss something exciting. Even though I know that for many of you it is actually quite late. No sleeping. I also can't really do this entire drive at a crawl. I could basically run next to the vehicle and go faster. Looking for more baby impalas. I want to see more baby impalas. So while I look for more baby impalas, let's head over to Byron and find out what his plans for his morning are.
So I took a walk through the thicket, and unfortunately I didn't come up with anything. No sign of any carcass. And I was just explaining to Eggsy, what happens is often these vultures will find trees, not necessarily directly above the carcass. They'll just find the trees that are big enough and probably open enough. So they prefer bare trees because it's easier for them to land with those large wings. So it doesn't mean they're necessarily always very close to the carcass. The carcass could be a few 100 meters away at times. But I took a walk through that block, had a good look around. I don't see anything. I couldn't see any signs of a carcass around there, but it could be something. But I do believe or do think that it's possibly something that died of natural causes from the drought, maybe another buffalo. But interesting nonetheless to see so many vultures around. But as I said, those vultures would have arrived in this area yesterday and not this morning or last night. So they've probably been there a while, and it helps a lot more if the vultures are flying down to feed on the carcass. Then you can have a good idea where that carcass is, or if they take off from the carcass. But then in the evenings they'll fly back up to the trees, and they'll roost there for the night. And then later, when the day starts warming up and the thermals start rising, that's when the vultures will start flying around, probably head down to that carcass, if there is one around there. But it's interesting, it's wonderful to be able to drive around and pick up on these signs that there's obviously something going on, there's something in the area, even though we're not able to find it all the time. But it's still exciting. It still gives you that idea that there's always something going on in nature, even though we don't see it. I still haven't had any sign of leopard tracks, unfortunately. I'm heading into towards an area called Sandy Patch, and I'm going to hang around there a little bit and just see if we don't get any alarm calls from impala or other antelope around that area. That is a little bit more open. But it's been for us a bit of a quiet morning, and it's just so funny. It works out like that sometimes. You can drive around through an entire property and see very, very little. I mean, I think we saw 2 impala this morning so far. That's about it. But it's good. It gives us time to appreciate some of the smaller things that we don't always look at or see. There are some elephant tracks around here. That would be nice. I'd love to find some elephant. and age 10 all the way from Jacksonville. Hello, Blaine. How are you? It's so nice to have you watching the show with us. You want to know why we always wear hats. So one reason, Blaine, is that the sun gets very, very hot out here in Africa, so we do have to try and protect our faces a little bit. And the other reason is, and people are so clever nowadays. What they've done is they've put our microphone in our hats, so you might hear that tapping, and so it helps having the hat, and then that's where our microphone is, so that you can hear us speaking. But the main reason is for the sun, Blaine. I'm just still scanning around, having a look, and I'd like to see some new bird species perhaps this morning. That would be great. I saw one earlier, but it was very, very quick, a fleeting glimpse of that Steeling's wren warbler, and I've mentioned it before in the past. It's a beautiful little bird, but very tiny, and I was saying to Eggsy, I don't think I've seen one for about 5 years. I've heard them, but they're very secretive, and unless you really go and look for them, they're difficult to see. I just heard one calling, got to see it, and then it flew off, as they do. But who knows what other bird species we could find this morning. And I'd like to also see some more impala lambs. I saw one yesterday afternoon very briefly. Hang on, I thought I spotted something. I could be wrong. Blaine, you want to know, are they called antelope because they eat ants? No, Blaine, they're not. Antelope, I actually don't know where the name comes from there, but the antelope are herbivores, which means they eat grass and vegetation. So leaves of trees or grass, that's what the antelope species feed on. They are herbivores. We call it herbivores. They only feed on vegetation. So despite the confusing name, they don't feed on ants. Also trying to look out for those wonderful woodland kingfishers. Now we've been hearing them, and I've seen one or two, but just glimpses. I'd love to get one sitting in a tree calling for us. That would be great. I know Brent's been very lucky with them. He's seen quite a few. Okay, so we're going to continue our search for birds and leopards and other animals, anything at this stage. While we do that, Steph is still on a walk. Let's see what he's got.
All right. Oh, welcome back. You've caught us while we're busy looking around for some tracks of some predator. In the area, there's been some alarm calls, and impala alarm calling, they sometimes alarm call for nothing, their own shadow, but they could also can alarm call for serval, for caracal, African wildcat, large eagles, and then of course leopard and lion as well. But what we've done is we've just moved into the area here, and we're just hoping to pick up some other type of track. So it's difficult to, when you're in the middle of a block like we are, you can see over here that there's no really well-defined game paths anywhere. And the trick is to just look for any entrance points into places like this to see what has been walking around. The only thing of note that I'd like to say right now is there was a track of a very large baboon here, and although that has no relevance in my mind to why the impala were giving their alarm calls, it is important to know that for a long time we didn't see baboon here at Djuma, and then I think it was the beginning of the dry season we started to see a fairly large troop, and now they're fairly common to see here on Djuma. For whatever reason they've decided to move back. But these lone bull baboons that you're seeing, and that's the tracks that we saw up there, was just a large track of a single bull baboon. These baboons can set you quite a challenge. Must be honest, to have a baboon living around the camp is something that you got to watch out for. They can become very mischievous and very imaginative thieves is the word I'd like to use over there. That's what they can come. All right, here's something. And what you want to try and do if you know you've got a baboon around the area that you live in is to keep all the areas where you keep food nice and closed. You've got to keep your rubbish locked away, and then at a point you've got to keep the windows away, and eventually that baboon moves off. Of course, there's no merit or there's no value in staying close to a homestead that doesn't provide him with easy food, and he'll move off eventually, and that's what we're hoping. The tracks that we saw were not too fresh. I would say probably about a day or two old, but it's a good thing. We'll keep an eye open for some more baboon as we go. Now, this is the dung of what looks to be a hippopotamus. Now, I'll answer your question in a second, Brian, but this is just quite interesting to note. This is a relatively small piece of dung. Here's my fist, comparatively speaking, for a hippopotamus. Generally, they can deposit dung over here that's many, many times the size of my fist, but in this particular case, just a little bit. And it can be quite confusing. This is almost the size of a piece of lion dung, or maybe just a large leopard scat. But when you get closer and you realize that there's just a lot of grass in it, it is a dead giveaway that the black color and the presence of as much grass as what we saw on it is a hippopotamus. And quite a difficult question that. Now, the question was asked, why was the name quarantine given to quarantine? It's such an interesting and different name to the names that we generally encounter right here, and it was named quarantine for a specific reason. It was fenced at a time, and animals that were reintroduced into the Sabi sand were placed there for a time period to acclimatize, not just to the vegetation but also to the presence of predators in the area. Animals that come from areas with low or no predator densities need to spend a time separate from those predators in order to build up their natural and instinctive fear of these animals. Not everybody's born, or not all animals are born with an instinctive knowledge on how to deal with a lion. And in the case of reintroductions here, rhinoceros, nyala, and wildebeest, and even to a point ostrich were reintroduced here, and almost all of them were heavily preyed on by the lion prides in this area. And so having this quarantine area, which was that open area that we've just crossed over, that we do cross over often on walks like this, was separate from the rest of the reserve, and then basically housed these animals for a time period, a couple of weeks to a couple of months, depending on the animal, before they were let go into the wild. All right, Byron's got a long-tail shrike, and you can see what that's up to.
We do have two beautiful magpie shrikes sitting out in the open. And they were calling for us. I'm hoping they'll call again. The interesting thing with these birds is they are monogamous. So they do stay in pairs. Look at that beautiful, slightly hooked beak. Can you see that as it turns with the light hitting it? Very sharp hooked beak. And these birds feed on insects, like most of the other shrikes. And they do have that beautiful long tail. It's amazing how they can balance with that tail, and you'll often see it just constantly moving backwards and forwards, keeping the balance of the bird. It used to be known as the long-tailed shrike, and a few years ago the name changed to the magpie shrike. Beautiful birds. A very distinct call. I'm hoping they call again, but they've decided to stay quiet now. Some Cape turtle doves also calling. And I've been trying to do some bird calls in the past, and I don't know if I can do a magpie shrike call. I can try my best. Or more like a... No, that's... Oh dear. But yeah, these melodious whistling calls are not always easy to mimic. Beautiful birds there. Lovely to see them. I'm so glad they sat out in the open for us on that branch. Let's see what else we can find. Let's continue our search in the great wide wilderness. And it's wonderful driving around, you know. Sometimes, even when you don't see a lot of animals, it's still just wonderful being out here, and it's wonderful to appreciate nature, the sounds and the smells, and it really is incredible. It's so relaxing and soothing. See if there are any other birds hiding around here anywhere. Sure. Even some of the birds are hiding. What was that? Just a flash of a bird flying through the scrub. Maybe a little scrub robin. They do have beautiful little scrub robins here too. But I'm not sure. I don't know if it definitely was one of those. Just a flash. I can try to show you a scrub robin quickly, just to show you what they look like. Beautiful little birds. Also very melodious call. I'm actually going to show you on the app rather. The app tends to have some nice pictures of the robins. So let me just find it for you quickly. It's also a little bit easier to find. And here is that little scrub robin. And you see that beautiful speckled. I'm going to just scroll and show you. Luckily they do generally have pictures of them. There we go. That's a little scrub robin. Beautiful rufous brown tail, brownish on the back, white underneath with a bit of streaking, and that very prominent white brow that you can see. The white-browed scrub robin. Beautiful bird, and I think that's possibly what I caught a glimpse of, just flying through the thicket. They do dart off fairly quickly. A lovely little bird. I'm just listening. I can hear some starlings alarm calling. It's a very, very harsh call, very harsh shriek. I unfortunately can't do it. And they're in the distance. I can't see where they are at the moment. Probably about 100 meters away. Now they'll alarm call at a number of things. Probably snakes, but also mongoose. In that, if a little mongoose is running around, these starlings will go through and try and mob the mongoose to chase it away, because mongoose will try and raid the nests and possibly go for the eggs. The other thing they could potentially be alarm calling at is maybe an owl of sorts. If there's a little owl sitting in a tree, a pearl-spotted owl or a scops owl, if they do see owls, the starlings will also mob them, and it's purely because it's a bird of prey. Even though it's no threat to the starlings, they'll still mob them and chase it away. They seem to have kept quiet now, so perhaps they just saw something run past, maybe a little mongoose, and they just upset them and they decided to mob them. I know Brent yesterday morning, in fact, saw that black mamba with the starlings mobbing it, and that's a good sign when you hear those bird calls that there could be something in that area. All right, let us carry on. Let's head back to Steph on the bushwalk and see what he's got.
Talking about what happened yesterday and a few days ago, during the rain last week, I happened to find a beautiful jewel beetle that was on an acacia like this. And so what I did was I stopped at this acacia, not expecting much to be honest, but found it to be just absolutely covered in beetles. There are more jewel beetles here, that is a jewel beetle, just a tiny one. And there must be a couple of hundred on this particular tree, and it's just a small little tree. You can see that beautiful iridescent green color on the side of the wings and on the head. Now we are coming to you live all the way from the African bush on foot, so you'd excuse please the odd shake as we come in close like that. It's an incredibly difficult skill to learn, is keeping this camera work steady. And we've got what I've been expecting for the last couple of weeks around this side. Come and have a look here. There's been an absolute explosion of flies. Now, one of the two protein sources that are in the bush over here that are such high value to all the animals here are flies during the day and termites during the evenings. And animals from all over the world, as far away as Russia, come all the way down to South Africa to partake in this feast. Obviously, birds fly the furthest, but every number of insect here enjoys this feast. And I've been waiting to see these spiders come out. And here we go, there's an orb spider. This is the first spider that builds an orb web that I've seen this season. So as excited as what we are to see the woodland kingfisher and the first impala lambs, that is how I'm getting for this particular spider. And I'm welcoming this spider. I cannot wait to see what has happened. This year has been a particularly good year for flies. The reason being is last year with the low rainfall, there was very low insect numbers, and that meant that there were very low spider numbers. And so pretty much for an entire year, the flies here have been uneaten, and their volume at the moment is just intense. It's escalated, especially over the last couple of months, with the sheer number of carcasses that have been unfed and basically just lying around the bush, basically just been leaving these flies to breed all over the place. And I'm waiting for the spider numbers to increase, and I'm expecting this year to have a very increased spider volume. So we'll see when we get to January and February and March, but I'm expecting the bush to be festooned with spider webs when we get to that time of the year. All right, we're going to send you over to Jamie, who's got something she'd like to show you.
Oh, speaking of exciting arrivals, I have got such a beautiful bird to show to you. A pair of plum-coloured or violet-backed starlings. Now, the one that you're looking at is the female. She's particularly drab-coloured, but the bird gets its name from the exquisite colours of the male. And he is here. He's going to pop out. That's the female. The male is just to the right of her. They're busy. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, starling! You chased them away. Why? Hold on. I can still see it. Hold on, hold on, hold on. We're going to go back. Starling? That was rude. One starling species chasing another away. Can still see it. Oh, let's try and get it. No, don't do that. Come back here. You horrible bird. Not a horrible bird, it's a beautiful bird. And I really want you to see it. No! Ah! The joys of live safaris. Hold on, I'm going to get this bird on camera. It's very relaxed. It just won't sit still. Hold on, I'm gonna find it again for you. The female's beautiful, but the male is more beautiful. And gone. You got him. Back or forward? Well done, Gendre. Yes! Haha. There we go. The plum-coloured or violet-backed starling, and that's the male. Very, very different to the female. And when you catch them in the right sort of light, which hopefully we shall do, you'll have a chance to see the exquisite colours of the bright purple. There we go. I was quite determined to get this particular bird on camera. They are so pretty. shining beautifully. And just by the way, we did get your updates, thank you, about the lion at Djuma Dam. I was on my way there before I got distracted by this particular bird. I'm trying to remember which way round. I always knew them as plum-coloured, which must mean that the new name is a violet-backed starling. And there's been a concerted effort between birding societies of various countries to basically make the names uniform, because of course different countries call the same bird different names. So that's why the names recently of some of the birds have changed. And they've also changed in terms of getting a better idea, in the case, for example, of the grey go-away bird, a better idea as to their family structure and their relatives and their connections in terms of their taxonomy. So that's why a lot of the names have changed, which is why you'll often hear all of us as guides, because we of course grew up with the old names, you'll always hear us refer to the first name and then correct ourselves and call it by its new and official name. I do the same thing with gymnogenes, the harrier hawks. I do it with the wood hoopoes. I keep calling them red-billed, and they're actually green wood hoopoes. So it's the same bird. Tomato, tomato kind of deal. Come on, son. We need you to show off the beautiful plumage of this particular bird. Shine upon us. I'm a little bit cross with the other starling because it was such a perfect position earlier. It was so close to the car. It was just glimmering. Oh, well, at least we managed to get it in the end. I'm just going to find a picture for you in my book to give you an idea of why exactly it is called a violet-backed starling. I haven't moved very far this morning. Hold on a second. There we go. Sorry, I forgot what the bird was called. I confused myself with the names. Here we go. I don't quite know how that happened, but it did, and I got confused. There we go. That is the violet-backed starling, a truly beautiful, beautiful bird. And you can get an idea in my book, since the light is not cooperating with us at the moment, but at least the artist rendition is. You can get an idea from my book that just how shiny its plumage is. There's the female, of course, the one that we saw, with her streaked chest, completely different to the male. We've just had them returned to us. They are inter-African migrants. In other words, they go up more into sort of Central Africa during our winter months. So they are back, much like the orbs, not the orbs, the golden orb spiders, and the woodlands kingfishers that I can hear chirring away. Right, let's go find that lion now, since my starling is being uncooperative. I want to take a shortcut. Forgive me, I'm sure I'll be forgiven. We're not really meant to use this road while we're live, but I'm just going to nip through. It's much quicker than going all the way around, especially since this is the direction he was heading in. So while I nip through, let's go over to Steph, who's found another summer arrival. Not arrival, that's not what I meant to say at all.
You know, sometimes just like that violet-backed starling that Jamie has, and I must be honest with you, it's one of my favorite birds out here, is that violet-backed starling. Just that male with that absolutely startling white chest and that iridescence on him. They are quite spectacular. But just as spectacular are these other small little things that we find from time to time. And have a look at this little visitor that is underneath here. For some or other odd reason, this young leopard tortoise has decided to crawl underneath this stump. I have no doubt he was trying to get away from us, hiding a little bit. And he's a couple of seasons old. When they're born, they're probably about half that size when they're born. And so he's managed to survive his first whole and full season, one of the most difficult ones. In actual fact, probably the most difficult one in the last 110 years. So he has got the survivor gene, as we like to call it. He's busy trying to get deeper underneath the stump. I don't quite know why he's doing that. You're going to get lost there, buddy. That, and I'm going to get bitten by a violin spider. And just have a look at how superbly colored he is, don't you think? I'll put him away now. Oh, this is just a dangerous stump to touch. I must be honest with you, I'll show you that now. And just have a look at that. Very nervous, still covered in dung and bits and pieces of sawdust. Isn't that incredible? I'll put him away now. And have a look here. That's what I'm worried about getting bitten by, is those two spiders inside there. They are the violin spider, and one of the most venomous spiders that we find out here. You get bitten by that guy and you've got some problems. They've got quite a violently cytotoxic venom, which means that they are cell destroying. The venom itself breaks down the cell walls of our cells and creates necrosis, which of course can lead to septicemia, and you can get quite horrible scars from bites from the spider. So out here in the bush, it's always a good thing not to put your fingers underneath a piece of wood when you're picking it up. They're quite fast moving, even though now they're standing quite still. At night time they are free roaming, and they roam around here looking for food, and they go back to their haunts in the daytime. And it's there that you get bitten mostly. Let's put this back without getting bitten, and giving that tortoise a little bit of shelter as well. Just make sure that he's not stuck. There we go. Hidden, not stuck, all safe and sound, and we can carry on with our day. Why we're walking in this particular area is not only to try and follow up on what those impala have been giving alarm calls for, but also there's a series of quite nice pans here. And I just want to see how much water these pans are still busy holding, to be quite honest. Now, Coffee, you just asked me if the violin spider is like the brown recluse spider. Yes. I think the recluses are the widows. No, they're not. They're exactly the violin spider. So the brown recluse is the violin spider. I was getting mixed up between them and the black widows, but the black widows or the widow spiders are different to the recluses. These are the recluses, and I'm sure you get recluse spiders or members of the recluse spiders all over the world. They're a fairly common venomous spider all over the world. And but here, that is the species that we find here. I think it's Securidae is the genus, yeah, one of those ones that you don't really want to get bitten by. A very common spider to get bitten by, or people who are envenomated by spiders are quite often bitten by the violin spiders, mainly because we all live in an area here where burning of firewood is one of the primary sources of fuel to cook with and to stay warm with. And so quite often these spiders leave stumps in wood piles that have been collected, and they're close to homesteads. And because they're free roaming, you find them quite often around houses. Now back to why we're here, there's a series of pans here that I wanted to visit today. And we've now gotten to one. This is one of the more unusual pans that I visit, and it's because it's right on the side of an enormous termite mound. So this pan here that we're having a look at over here fills up with water and mud, obviously, and was home, it looks like, to a lot of buffalo and elephant last year, but has holding absolutely no water now. It's weird. Some pans here hold water, others don't. It's just bizarre for me to actually find out why. And it's not because there's a lack of clay here. This is all clay, so it does have its waterproof lining. Just one of those mysteries. Anyway, on this mysterious front, why don't you go find out what Byron is up to?
Thanks. Now, there is quite a mystery going on here, everyone. Now, I have just seen some leopard tracks walking all along the road, and then the leopard cut off and cut south onto Vuyatelo, onto Djuma, and then all of a sudden the whole Pride, the Nkuhuma Pride tracks just popped out, and now I don't see them anymore. I'd like to see which direction they've gone. Let's just have a look around here. So definitely the whole Pride, I can see tracks of the cubs as well as the females. But I think I heard, not sure, I didn't hear an update from anybody. Where have those tracks gone now? Should be here. There we go. Okay. Let's jump off here. Stick with us. Let's just see which direction these tracks have gone, so we can get a better idea. So they're line tracks all over here at the moment, all over the road. The little cubs, the females, and they've come along here. And okay, I'll have to just have a careful look around here. I want to see which direction they've gone. There's nice soft sand on this side of the road. I'm having a look. I don't see any tracks around here now. I've got a feeling they've crossed in here somewhere. I just need to find some soft sand now to see if we can see the tracks. Sure, it is sometimes difficult on this hard sand. Especially these areas where there's a lot of vegetation, and this soil here is very, very hard, very, very hard from just it's probably from rain and that it's caked a little bit. It's not, so you can't necessarily see very clear tracks. But hang on, here we go. Okay, there's a lioness track over here, everyone. So it's going in this direction. And I'm just looking around because you never know, they could be very, very close. Just want to have a look, quick look here, and then we'll take a little road down and drive and see if they, which direction they've crossed. But it is quite hard, yeah, this sand or this soil is very, very hard, so a bit difficult to track. You've got to look very carefully. And it's times like these, I wish my friend Judas, who was a tracker that I used to work with, I wish he was around, because he was just incredible. He had a sixth sense about tracking animals. But it does look like these lines have crossed onto Djuma, onto Vuyatelo. So I'm going to see which direction they've gone. And we're going to take a little road that leads down. Maybe we're lucky and we still find them this morning. That would be great. Let's have a look. So now we're trying to track the whole Pride, but Jamie has found one of the males.
I have to be completely honest, I didn't have to look very far for this particular male lion. He is very, very close to the Djuma Dam, and I think it was him that we heard roaring away this morning while we were sitting with those ground hornbills. We're sitting with Mfumo, one of the 4 Birmingham boys and the 4 dominant male lions in this area. It is lovely to see him, and what is truly impressive, of course, about Mfumo is the level of healing that he has shown in terms of fixing his body, fixing that unbelievable injury that he had on his face. There was a time when we were actually concerned about what sort of impact it was having on his health. You can just see it now vaguely, just a little open wound on the left-hand side of, well, his right, our left-hand side of his nose. It still hurts every now and again. You can see there's a little bit of a twitch to his face, but other than that, it is looking really very good. Male lions, of course, wear their histories in the form of scars across their faces, and dominant male lions are always scratched up and scarred and almost grizzled looking. And it's all testament to their dedication in terms of establishing and creating a territory for themselves, which isn't always an easy process. And then, of course, once you've established a territory, now you've got, in this case, 3 other males to contend with when it comes time for meal times and for mating with females. And as a result, the odd lions don't really sit down and have a polite conversation or perhaps conflict resolution. It is all resolved by fighting with each other. Hello, big boy. Sometimes I look at them and it's hard to believe they're the same male lions we saw a year ago, or a year and a half ago, when they first started moving in. I know they were seen before that, but for me, my first sighting of them was around July last year. And it's quite extraordinary, the difference in the lions that came in and the lions that we have now. Established dominant males, their manes have filled out. They're still doing what male lions do best, which is that. Having a jolly good snooze. Hey boy. And he's been up all night making lots and lots and lots of noise. He's tired now. All of that roaring and patrolling takes its toll. And now he just wants to have a little bit of a nap. Now he, of course, could tell us where the Nkuhumas are. I'm sure he knows. Unfortunately, I don't speak lion, or at least not much lion, not very fluently. I can't ask him. Hey, big boy. To me, he is Mfumo, or Birmingham boy number 4. To me, he is the biggest of, well, I haven't seen all 4 of them. Actually, Jandra and I were just talking about this now. It has been a long time since we've seen all 4 of them together, actually properly together. They've been in the same area a few times, but to see all 4 of them together is now a rare sight indeed, which is common with coalitions. They've got to split off and patrol different parts of the territory, make sure that all of their boundaries are protected, and occasionally spend a little bit more time with one pride or another. So in the case of Tinyo and Mfumo, they spend more time with the Nkuhumas. But it's been a long time since we've been able to compare all of them. Oh, so sleepy. It's a relatively short and very tough life that the male lions lead, but it looks as though, at least in the case of the Nkuhumas, and hopefully for the new generation of Styx cubs, it looks as though they will have a legacy to leave behind. And that, of course, is the aim of all male lions: survival and propagating their own genetic line. And that is worth, to them, that is worth everything. It's worth fighting to the death for, in order to establish themselves. And some of them never manage it. Some just don't succeed. They never manage to establish a territory. But these boys have done well. 5 initially, for our newer viewers, a bit of background. There were 5 of them. They called the Birmingham boys because they came from an area, well, actually came from a pride known as, in theory, from the Birmingham Pride. And the Birmingham Pride gets its name from a property called Birmingham, which is obviously not the actual Birmingham city, but a place just outside of Orpen Gate. Of course, it's all open to the Kruger and to the Sabi Sand, and they came in 5 of them a year and a half ago, pumped up full of testosterone, kicked out the dominant Matimba males, and have since established themselves as the dominant kings, at least of this area. And it was a brutal takeover, not so much for the Matimbas, because the Matimbas legged it, and who can blame them? They were getting to the stage where they were older. It was time for them to move out of that area anyway, or else they ran the risk of mating with their own daughters. So it was a good thing that happened, but it was a little bit it was very traumatic for many of us and many of you that have got to know the lions over the past few years. The deaths of several Nkuhumas, and of course the Styx cubs. All natural part of the takeover process. Is that a scratch on his leg? Yeah. Deep scars that they bear. It's healed up perfectly. I don't remember seeing that, but deep scratches, probably from fighting with one of the other males. Could even have been that. Those could even have happened when he was fighting with Tino, with Brent. Always entertaining to watch them nod off. You can see it. Dozing quite happily. I think he was probably responsible for the alarm calls that Herbert heard. The impala would have started barking away at him. And he's been and had his drink now. Hard to judge how full he is. Looking at him now, I don't think he's eaten much recently. My suspicion as well, because yesterday, of course, with Byron, he was with Tino, and the two of them were treating us to an incredible display of their auditory, that's not what I meant, of their roaring prowess. Incredible sounds that come through. Were you going to roar for us? No, just sniffing the air. I suspect that Tino is not far away. They generally stick together, these two. While we wait to see what our male lion decides to do, Steph has arrived at a mud wallow.
Isn't that male lion absolutely magnificent? I must say I'm quite envious of you. We don't get to see male lions on foot from that distance as easily as what you've just seen it, but what we do get to see is a bunch of little things that are, for me at least, just as interesting. What you were just having a look at over there was a clover field. Now, we've said that we're going to come and look at a bunch of these basically pans that have been filled up with water a couple of weeks ago with the rain that we had in the area, and are now slowly sinking and slowly starting to stagnate. And they go through a life cycle much like anything else, with little plant and animal communities popping into being. This one is particularly old, I think, and it's starting to dry out quite quickly, and I'm seeing, just looking at it, it's starting to bubble and it's starting to stagnate quite badly. Now, nothing much can get into it because this elephant has managed to push this tree down over the pan, and what is quite weird is that it doesn't even have, this is almost the perfect habitat for a foam nest frog, and it doesn't even have a single foam nest frog nest in it. It's worrying, you know. I wonder exactly what type of effect this drought has had on the frog populations around here. You know, a lot of frogs live longer than 1 year, and they have porous skin, and they can dehydrate through their skin. And I'm wondering, you know, looking at this, which is, I would expect there to be a number of foam nest frog nests on this particular tree. There isn't even one, not even an old one. Now, it's not because this pond has sprung into being over the last 24 hours. This water has been here for a good couple of weeks, which would have enabled any of the frogs in the area to come out of their hiding places and to mate with one another, and they create this foamy white ball of eggs. And we have seen a couple of pans. I think Byron was showing us one the other day. Couple of pans in the area. I've seen one of the pans in the area with a foam nest frog on my walks through here, but this one has nothing. So yeah, question is, right now I suppose, what effect has the drought had on the frog populations here? Now, Melissa, you've wanted to know, did we get any of the rain that was expected yesterday? No, Melissa, we didn't. It clouded up quite nicely last night. We could hear thunder in the distance, but no rain came, which is sort of the hallmark of this particular place. But we are expecting rain over the weekend, substantial rain in actual fact, coming in from the tropics. Quite often the big rain that we get here in South Africa is from tropical cyclones in January, February, March that come in over the Indian Ocean and over Mozambique. And then in the earlier parts of the year, so November, December areas, we get moist air that comes from the inside of Africa, coming all the way down from the tropics, from the equator, coming down in these fingers and tongues into South Africa, and can sit sedentary over a place for a number of days, giving us a lot of rain. And that is what we're seeing developing at the moment, coming in from equatorial Africa all the way down across Zimbabwe or Botswana, one of the two, and then dipping into South Africa, giving us some rain. And that's the rain that they are predicting comes over this weekend. That's what we're hoping for, at least anyway. If we can get a large amount of rain. What we don't want here is massive amounts of rain in a very, very short space of time, because it all just runs away and takes with all the precious soil as well. What we want is a steady sort of rain, which will play havoc with our show, to be quite honest with you, but I think we'll all understand. Rain is such a special thing. All right, so why don't we go through to Byron, who is wanting to give you an update, and I suppose at some point you're going to go and see that lion again.
So we're still in search of these lions. I haven't had any further luck with the tracks. They did head off the road and into quite a thick block. So I'm just trying to see and scan very carefully around this area. Maybe we get lucky, who knows? And it's always exciting when you are tracking like this, looking for animals. But it is difficult for us because you do miss tracks when you are just driving the vehicle. It helps if you've got someone sitting on the front, perhaps looking for tracks while you're driving. And as I said, that substrate or that soil that we were on earlier was very, very hard, and I couldn't see any tracks. I went back and just took a little walk around there, and I did see some of the lions did move further south, so into this area off to my right. And I think they're possibly in this area somewhere. Trying to check the road too the whole time. So now it's a case of checking the road for tracks and then still scanning and having a look around to see if we can't get a glimpse of a lion, perhaps in the thicket, in the bush. And they're starting to warm up, so chances are that possibly they have gone to lie down already. And every time I look down in hope, hoping to see a track, just to put us on the right track again. Give us a direction at least, anything. Some birds flying around. I'm trying to listen to the other guys on the radio too. I did update them and told them exactly where the tracks were. I just want to hear if any of them are heading into this area to possibly look for lion. And we also saw a leopard track, a big male leopard track. That seemed to carry on along the road, along the main cut line. But I did hear somebody call in those leopard tracks, or tracks of a leopard, a little bit earlier this morning, but further into Vuyatela, into Djuma. So it could potentially be the same leopard. I mean, leopards do cover huge distances constantly. And it's just those lion tracks looked very fresh. They did look like they were from this morning sometime. Again, it is tough to tell. Probably late last night, early this morning, that they moved through the area. But it is exciting, and you never know. We could come around the corner and possibly bump into them somewhere. And just keep scanning, keep having a look. And this is part of a safari. That's the thing. While you're out here, you've got to track, you've got to take time, and it doesn't just happen immediately. Sometimes we get lucky and we bump into the animals, but you've got to spend time tracking, listening, and working out where these animals have moved to find them. And because they're wild animals, they'll move wherever they want. And that's why I love it so much, is because you never know. There's no guarantee. There's never a guarantee in the bush. Steve seems to be interested in wallowing this morning. He's at another mud wallow.
I'm interested in wallowing. Doesn't that mud look delicious to you? Looks like something on a hot day that you just want to climb into and let the wind cool off. I mean, not the fact that you'll end up brown here, but I found something that has made me feel a little bit better about the frogs that we were talking about. Here is the frog nest. Now, Liz, this is geared, I suppose, a question that is aimed directly at what your comment has just been. This is a foam nest frog nest where the eggs have already hatched and fallen out the bottom, and I would expect that there's a mass of foam nest frog tadpoles inside this particular dam or pan. So definitely made me feel a little bit better about what I expect to find in this particular area, and made me feel good about the fact that there's still some foam nest frogs here. But your actual question was, would the frogs have migrated to find a different area with more permanent water? The answer to that is no, Liz, not as far as I can know. Frogs don't really migrate from one place to another. They get brought in. So frogs' eggs get transported in a whole variety of different ways, on the bodies of wallowing buffalo and hippopotamus, on the legs of birds, and they sort of will arrive in a pan. Who knows how exactly they get there, but they'll arrive in a pan, and that population then is in that area and around that pan. If the pan had to dry up and the water had to leave, they can move a certain distance, of course, but they can't really move that much. They're not going to be able to go, for instance, from here to the escarpment where there is a little bit more permanent water. That's a journey that is out of the capacity of these frogs to do. So no, they would just die out locally and then be brought in again from other areas with wading birds and buffalo and hippo, all that sort of thing. Let's see what else is here. These pans can sometimes just hold the most amazing life. Already we've seen one or two spiders here that hunt for insects coming to drink on the water's edge, and also for tadpoles and even some small fish. Let's see if we can find one for you. They're a species of lynx spider. There we go, on the water. Let's see now. I'm going to show you where the spider is, and let's see if we can show you. They use the meniscus on the water to move from place to place. They've got these waxy covered hairs on their legs, and the spider itself is there. There. And let's see if we can get him to hop over the water. Get ready, it's going to be quick if it does happen. There he goes. Look at that. The wind is blowing him across the water. Isn't that the most amazing thing you've ever seen? Come on. They can give you quite a nip. Doesn't want to go onto the water anymore. It's called my bluff. Come on, dude. There you go. Isn't that the best thing? Just spreading the weight over the water. And of course the meniscus of the water is that area of stable water that the pressure from below is cancelled by the air pressure from above, and is allowing this spider. Let's see if I can blow it. That is just the most amazing thing, skating on top of the water like that. And of course, it will be able to pick up any drowned insects that it finds floating on the top. It will be able to catch certain insects. Oh, that is just amazing. Did you get that? I hope some of you managed to get some video or some screenshots of that. And slow it down if you can. Have a look at the way that they walk and they bounce across the water. So what they do is actually push against the water, which pushes back using one of Newton's laws of physics, and it'll use that elasticity of the meniscus to bounce across the water. Isn't that just incredible? Hunting that way. Just one of the most amazing ways that the spiders here can find a niche almost anywhere to get their food. All right, now do I stand up over here and lose half my head to this buffalo thorn? There we go. Got to worry yourself out here when you are swinging about like I do. As I said, so I didn't bash my head, but I did end up ripping my finger open. Not such a bad one today. Not shedding too many drops. All right, let's go and carry on. There's a series of one more of these pans in this particular area. Looking forward to seeing what type of life is there really. Right, and while we get to the next pan, which is admittedly a little bit of a distance away in that direction, why don't we go see what Byron's up to.
Right, I've just spotted a little antelope off to the right, everyone. Let's see if we can see it. Hopefully it stands there. Look at that beautiful little duiker. Now it's trying to hide away from us, and usually they run away very quickly. So it is great that we managed to spot him. And I've switched off. I'm sitting quietly. Hopefully it doesn't run away, but it definitely can see us. It's just trying to hide behind the trees there. See how those legs are shaking? Probably just trying to get rid of some flies that are sitting on it. Now, these duiker are elusive and they do tend to run away very quickly. So it's great to see this little one, even though its face is hiding. And I wonder if I don't try roll forward a little bit. I'm not on a big enough slope to roll. No, the vehicle's not rolling anyway. I'm worried that if I do start the vehicle, it might run off. But let's... Oh, there we go. There you can see its face. Wonderful. Isn't that lovely? It's so nice to see some different antelope. See how it keeps looking at us through the branches. I think it possibly thinks because it can just see us that we can't really see it. Maybe that's why it's still so relaxed. Hang on, it might... There we go. Just moving out. Beautiful male duiker. Oh, wonderful. That is a great view. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, very nice. A nice little surprise. A little duiker. One of the smallest antelope we get in this area, and that's full grown. That's a full grown little male. Isn't that wonderful? Nice to see. Still no luck with the lions, everybody. Oh, but hang on. See, when you stop and you look at antelope and other little creatures, you start seeing interesting little things. And look at this. Hang on. Look at that beautiful feather. I wonder if you can actually pick up on the iridescence there. But it has got a slightly blue coloration to it, and beautiful iridescence. Trying to see. You can't really see it, can you, on the camera, or can you? That's very, very beautiful. Just that beautiful blue and slightly purple iridescence. Now I think this is most likely from a starling. I think that's what this feather is from. Probably a Birchall starling, judging by the size. And it's funny, depending on the angle I hold it at, the colors there, it's completely brown if I hold it at this angle, and there, as the light hits it, I get that beautiful purple and bluish coloration to it. So there seems to be a little bit of confusion this morning with the lions, and one guy says that he thinks they found the lions, and then nobody else knows who found the lions, and I don't think they really know what's going on. It's quite entertaining. We had the lion tracks. That's what we had, and I still think they're in this block somewhere, possibly, because don't see any tracks coming out. Again, it's very difficult to drive and track at the same times. So, yeah, and even though we might be a little bit confused about where these lions are, but Jamie isn't. She has got one. Let's head back to her and see what it's up to.
I'm so sorry. I'm just right in the middle of a conversation that will give us a very, very exciting moment spent with an unusual bird. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Oh, sorry. Dual transmission there. Whereabouts were those birds? Oh, awesome. Thank you. I know that pair. I'm pretty sure I know which tree that is. Thanks so much. I'm going to be making my way there shortly. It's open lock. Sorry, everybody. Whenever we do call in birds, it's usually for quite an exciting reason. So that's why I'm just trying. I know you're looking at a lion and I'm busy talking about a bird. But for our newer viewers, I'm using a radio that allows us to connect with all of the guides in the area so that we can share information, so that we can plan out our searches and our mornings and our afternoons, where we're going to go, how we're going to do things. And of course, also to make sure that these animals don't get mobbed by vehicles. So of course in certain areas where that isn't the case, you get lots and lots of vehicles moving around, whereas in this particular area it is restricted to 3 at a time, sometimes less. But sometimes we do use the Game Drive channel to share exciting and unusual sightings, and I'm going to be going to this particular bird in the not too distant future. It's not a new one for some of you will have seen them before, but I do really, really enjoy them. So I don't think Mfumo is going to be up to too much. I think we'll leave him after this. We'll leave him in the next few minutes and we'll go off in search of that bird before the end of the sunset safari. But for now, Mfumo is snoozing away quite happily. He was restless for a little while. He was sort of flopping, rolling over, flicking his tail. No yawns, but he did look as though he wasn't quite fully relaxed. But I have to tell you now, that's a very relaxed looking lion. That is a lion that doesn't have too much on his mind and isn't really planning on going terribly far. So we'll probably leave him shortly. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh, we're back. Okie dokie. So the audio came back just in time for my stomach to rumble, is essentially what you're saying. We get up very early, okay? And sometimes a breakfast is much needed. And I'm sure Mfumo agrees. I'm reassessing how full he is. He has actually had a meal relatively recently. Perhaps he joined the Nkuhumas last night, I'm not sure. But he's not empty-bellied. He's relatively round. All in all, full stomach. He's just had a drink. And now he's got a nice comfortable patch of ground with guaranteed shade. I don't think he's going to be going anywhere. I'm still just flabbergasted by the healing power of animals, I have to say. And for a human being, imagine having a seething open wound or seeping open wound very badly infected right on your sinuses and your cheek, to the point that it was bubbling when he breathed. Imagine a human being with an injury like that. You'd be in hospital, you'd be on 10 different types of antibiotics. We are just, at this point, no longer on quite the same level as the animals. And of course, there's lots of reasons for that. We can't really compare us. We're apples and oranges. But it is the amount of pain that they are able to bear and the speed of their healing and the resilience of their bodies to infection is humbling, I think is perhaps the good word. Almost all of the animals out here have a way of humbling us, whether it's their senses or their strength or their speed. We're relatively, obviously intellectually we're a different kettle of fish, but biologically we're relatively a feeble species. Now, I'm going to go and find you the exciting bird, hopefully. While I do that, Steph has arrived at his final mud wallow.
We have, and just have a look at this massive expanse of water that we have here. This is about the size that a natural pan gets to out here. And this one is full. Other than the first one that we went to in the series, which had no water in, this one is holding quite a lot of water. And there where you are, on that side of the pan, it's probably about knee deep. So it's a relatively deep water pond, and is holding water much better than any of the others. Not quite as much going on here though as there was at the previous pan, but I would suspect that if we did a quick inspection around here and saw what tracks there were, that it could quite easily be a better pan for large mammal tracks. And it's because they've got these beach areas. Where I'm standing right now, there's another one across over there and another one over there roundabouts, and I think let's VM walk you across from that side of the pan and come and join me on this side of the pan, and let's see what tracks we can find here together. We've got a genet track here. Hang on, let's go and see what that is. This is an interesting track right here. The long toes and the long claws, you can see the long claws there. I mean, I'm gonna say that it's probably a porcupine. And what we're looking at here is this track here in the middle of the sand there. If it was a honey badger, the claws would be much further away from the actual pad, and you've got these very robust claws quite close to the pad but pushed into the mud here. And then you've got quite an involved pad system, plus the fifth vestigial pad there. Now, what I immediately thought when I first walked up to here is, it's a water mongoose because of this very long toe. But looking at it like this now, you can realize that it's just the depth that the pad has been pushed into the mud shows me that it's most likely a porcupine. Let us come to have a drink over there. Let's carry on around this side a little bit and let's see what other tracks we can find. Here we have some duiker tracks from a common duiker. Here we have the track of a genet. Let's go around a little bit more. So easily one of these pans that is a little bit better from a larger animal point of view. Not so much from frogs and spiders, and I think it's because it's so exposed. There's very little area here for the smaller animals to hide. And here we've got some rhinoceros. Here's the very large foot of a white rhinoceros. One toe there, and another toe here. It's another much older track here. So some rhinoceros. What else have we got here? Some nyala. And on this side, some impala. So quite a lot of tracks around this little pan. I mean, it's obviously a very busy pan. It's definitely a local watering hole, the local pub, so to say, where everyone comes and has a drink. Oh, look at all these insects on top of the water that you're looking at there. I'm gonna have to get much closer to these to see what they are. Gee whiz. I don't know what they are actually. Oh, they are tiny little insects that live on the, they're like little flies that live on top of the water. Now, Dark Tranquility, you've asked me if we were stuck out here in the bush and you needed to drink water from this pan, is there any way to create a filter? There absolutely is. There's a whole bunch of ways you could create a filter, Dark Tranquility. The very best one to use is the material that we have on our bodies, with, in my opinion, the best one being a sock. So what you do is you take your sock off, and you could fill it with a variety of different things to filter out most of the debris, from it's coarse sand, which you can find in riverbeds close by, right at the bottom of the sock, and then layered with grass that you can find. And then you just pour the water in the top, or you scoop it up at the top with a snail shell or with a piece of bark or something, pouring it down into your sock, and the water that drips out the end will be fairly clear of debris. But in my opinion, you still need to boil that water. If you were desperate and you'd had no means of making a fire, you could of course chance it and drink it just like that. But with the relatively high phosphate content of the water that you find here, and also the fact that animals come in, defecate and urinate, animals die in the water, especially insects. You don't really know what type of bacteria is inside water like this. And so it's always best, as a rule of thumb, to heat up the water that you drink from pans like this. You need to heat it to above 60 degrees for longer than 10 minutes or so. So you've got to boil it quite vigorously, and then you've got to drink it if you need to. Needing about 2 liters of water a day here to maintain a healthy metabolism. That's how much you'll sweat out here just in the heat. So water is very, very important. If you were stuck out here in a survival situation, you would absolutely base yourself close to a water source, a permanent water source. Even something as dirty as this would and could save your life, absolutely. All right, and that is our journey to these pans in this area at an end. We've now visited them all. I don't think there's another pan around here. There may be a seep that we can go and visit, and I think that's what we're going to go and do, and see if that seep is fairly active. Seeps are areas inside drainage lines and gullies where elephant have dug out, where water is close to the surface. We can go and see. I know of 1 or 2 around here. We can see if we can find one that's active for you, but I think it's a good idea to definitely go and have a look and see what we can find. And James Richard, thank you. You've said thank you to me for adding to your tracking collection. And I'm glad that you actually have a tracking list going there, James. That's quite a nice thing to do. Equally as nice as a bird list. All right, why don't we send you through to Byron for an update, and we'll catch up with you if we find one of those seeps.
Okay, so I'm having a good look in this area for these owls. I know Jamie wanted to come and have a look, but we've been tracking these lions around here. No luck yet on the lions. So I'm hoping that I can show you some owls. Something at least. It's sometimes a bit frustrating when you are trying to look for animals. You just can't see where the tracks are heading, but that's the way it goes. Does happen like that. So I'm trying to have a look. I am in this area where they saw 2 white-faced owls. So I'm just scanning very carefully. Hopefully we'll see them shortly. Not too far from that area, I think, but it is a little confusion which road they were on actually. But I think I know where they are. Let's just have a look. Okay, I'm going to look around here. I think this is the area that they were in. Let's look very, very carefully. Difficult to spot these little owls at times. Oh dear, oh dear. Sure, everyone, this is very difficult, trying to find out where they spotted two little owls. I'm on the road that they've said it's on. I don't see anything just yet. I have no idea where to look now. Hang on a second, maybe it was definitely off the fire break apparently. Let's see. Keep your eyes peeled, Eggsy. A lot of
Oh, dearie me, it seems as though poor Byron has lost signal. The attack of the gremlins, as we call it, which does happen. You can imagine bringing you a live safari. It's all very complicated. I'd love to explain it in great depth, but I'm not at liberty to disclose such things. And also, I have no idea how it works. But I can tell you that I think I know where those owls are, and I'm going to go and help Byron. I wasn't going to go into that area if Byron was there, but since he is having a little bit of a tricky time, which is fair enough, those owls are impossible to, not impossible, but they're very difficult to see. Oh, much chattering in my ear. They are difficult to see if you don't know where they are, and I think I know where they are. I'm going to look like I'm going to embarrass myself. Let's rephrase that entirely before. I'm going to embarrass myself if I get there and I can't find them. But now it's a race. Now I have to get there and find them before Byron finds them. Things could get a little tricky here. A race to them. The good news is they're probably not going anywhere. In fact, the chances of them moving are about as high as the chances of Mfumo moving off from where he is right now. Now, ideally, I'd like to slip up Nyala Road North right now. That could, however, mean that I go into Gremlin Hollow as well, just to warn you all. But it would be much quicker for me to take that particular route, and we are running out of time. I can't believe I'm racing towards the sighting. I did something silly. I went off in the opposite direction. When Byron said he was closer, I just turned off and went the opposite way. How do you feel about Nyala Road North, Rebecca? Do we feel brave today? Or not so much? Yes, we do. We do feel brave. We do feel brave. Let's do it. An elephant. Where was the elephant? Was it? Oh, okay, so it was a faraway elephant. Not that I usually drive past elephants, but today. Okay, well, we haven't got to Nyala Road North just yet, but we're about to. It's one of my favorite roads, and unfortunately it's one of the worst signal patches, just in terms of our broadcast stuff. Something interferes with a thingamajig and it makes it all go black. I don't know. My summary. Just checking sort of as quickly and as thoroughly as possible to make sure that Tingana isn't somewhere here. There were male leopard tracks crossing onto Djuma and moving in this direction. I think that's where Steph and Herbert have been, around the area, around the vicinity of those tracks. I don't think they've seen anything though, but there's always a chance that we might just bump into Tingana somewhere along here. Hold on. Bumpy, bumpy. Sorry, everybody. Okay. false alarm, a civet track combined with a zebra track made for some confusing tracks. You okay there, Jandre? Right, Nyala Road North, here we come. Not to be melodramatic, but I might disappear off your screens any second now. It is Rusty though. Rusty's been okay. So far so good. Whee! Little slide down the rocky bit. This is where the Nkuhumas first introduced us to their cubs. The first three were there. That exact spot. When the three of them lined up and posed as if I'd put them there. It was beautiful. All symmetrical, adorable little faces lying on Mom's leg. Oh, it was so precious. It was in that exact spot. And that's what's fun about working in an area for a relatively long period of time. Because every corner you go around, you've got a memory associated with. Usually a good memory, hopefully a good memory. The next bend is where the Nkuhumas killed the buffalo. I mean, one of the many times they killed the buffalo. This is where I was on bushwalk with VM and I lost signal and I had to go back. I went to go racing back to Buffalo Dam. It's where Taylor and I tried to follow the lions off-road at night, relatively unsuccessfully, and they led us on a mad adventure through the bush in the dark. See what I mean? Lots of memories attached to different places. Oh. No. Focus. Focus. Hey, we made it through the entire road. Seem to be fine. How much time have we got left? Are we going to find these owls? You know what's going to happen, don't you? We're going to get there, and Byron's going to find them as we get there. Not that I begrudge you that, it's just going to be one of those things. It'll be Murphy's Law. Oh, speaking of birds and Byron, let's go and see which one he's found.
So we unfortunately have not found those owls at all. I know Jamie is heading into the area. Maybe she knows which tree to look at. That was a beautiful African hawk eagle though that we could see soaring above us. It's unfortunately drifting away from us at the moment. Very, very beautiful, beautiful bird. African hawk eagle. And there it goes. Speaking of Jamie, she's in front of us, so let's see if she has any luck with the owls, because I don't know where to look, because some hi, morning. See if you can find them. I don't know which tree. I mean, I did.
The only reason I think I might is because I think I know which tree they're in.
Oh,
There for
cool. Well then maybe, yeah, good luck, because also I did east and west, and
They're not exactly easy to find, are they? Let's see. I'll try. We both try.
I hope you've got some luck. I hope you've got some luck. We're gonna go and find wildlife.
Hello.
We'll see you all later. Cheers. Good luck. So now in a situation like that, I've got to remember who's live. Is it Jamie or me? Well, hopefully Jamie has some luck. But nice to see that African hawk eagle soaring above us. Now usually they're in pairs, so I'm surprised I didn't see another one flying around. Perhaps that one's just busy looking for food and the other one is possibly perched somewhere. And those birds, it's incredible, and you'll notice if you do see those birds of prey, the hawk eagles, anywhere or perched in a tree somewhere, you get guinea fowl or francolins nearby. Those birds are very, very nervous because those African hawk eagles will hunt them. And I have seen a guinea fowl get caught by an African hawk eagle before. They'll swoop down and ambush them and catch them with their very, very sharp talons. Really starting to warm up now. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning. Doesn't look like any cloud cover. Remember I said we should wait till about 8 o'clock to decide what the weather's going to do. So it appears as if it's going to be clear skies for most of the day, maybe later a bit of cloud cover. It's been happening a lot lately because of the building of rain. We can feel it in the air. There's this, there's a lot of humidity. The air is very, very thick at the moment. So hopefully we'll get some rain fairly soon. It is needed. And it'll also help cool down a little bit here. Big elephant roadblock there. We'll have to try and get somebody to come and move that tree. But that I think will need a chainsaw or a tractor. Alright, so we're going to continue our search for creatures and wildlife in general. Steph's still out in the...
Now, this piece of dung had us perplexed here for a bit. I'll show you why. I'm going to have a look here. Look at the size of the boluses here. They're just enormous. Here's my fist. You can see that they are just incredibly large. And my initial thoughts was because of the black color and the fibrousiness of it that it was hippo dung. But on closer inspection and by using my nose, I could tell that it absolutely isn't. It's rhinoceros dung, which looks almost the same, with the exception that rhinoceros this time of the year can have quite a lot of sticks, and that's one of the things that gave it away for me, is the presence of these sticks. They're just a very fibrous grass. Hippo don't eat that grass. And the lack of smell. The hippo dung has got quite a pungent smell to it. Now, Heather, you've asked me where did we get the name dung scat? And, I've forgotten the last one now. Dung scat, and it'll come to me in a second. And you wanted to know, and poop, I suppose, is the one that's just come through me. So dung, scat, and poop, what are the three differences? I call this dung, Heather, and dung for me is anything that comes from a herbivore. So anything that's fibrousy, that comes from an animal that eats plant material, I call dung. Poop for me is something that primates do, and I will refer to poop when it comes to, or feces when it comes down to primates or humans. And then scat is what I like to use for cats or for animals that eat meat or carnivores. I use the word scat. I suppose there's a definition in there somewhere along the line, but that is how I define what I use those particular words for. If you find anything different, if there is a difference to them, you're welcome to post it up on our Facebook page or send it to us via the hashtag SafariLive or to questions@wildearth.tv if you do find a difference. So for me, dung is herbivores, scat is carnivores, and poop is humans or primates. That's what I like to use there. And onward we go. I actually wanted to show you this. I thought it was hippo initially because right earlier on in the walk we saw that tiny little pile of hippo dung that looked very similar to a lion or to a baboon or to a hyena in actual fact, but it really was just a tiny hyena dung. Quite often you find hippo droppings this size. You know, the bolus that a hippo can form can quite easily be as big as this, if not bigger. And this is unfortunately not a hippo, but a rhinoceros. And a monstrous one. I saw that. VM says there's a millipede in here. And that actually tickled my fancy. I learned something new this week that I'm going to share with you. And I always thought that millipedes like this are detritivores. In other words, they eat dead and decaying matter. I never knew that they were scavengers, and I especially didn't know that they can even be predaceous. And this week I learned both. I learned that a millipede like this can be seen eating other insects that have died, but will wrap themselves around an insect similar to how a python or an anaconda does, and will actually feed on an insect. I saw a picture that a friend of mine took this week of a millipede subduing a cricket and eating it. Isn't that incredible? I never knew that. That's a first for me. These millipedes are the most amazing things. Let's see if this one wants to play with us a little bit. You can see generally these youngsters can get quite feisty when you start to pick them up. Here's the ventral view of a millipede, not something that we see often. Now, at the base of the legs, there are 2 legs per segment. At the base of the legs is tiny holes, and from those holes comes a hydrocyanide, which then coats the body of the millipede with this very distasteful compound and makes them almost indigestible for most animals out here, except the civet, some scorpions, and a bird or 2. And funny enough, I also learned another thing this week from a friend of mine who has a bunch of rock monitors. He says they will also eat millipedes, and I never knew that. I never knew rock monitors ate millipedes. But he says his definitely do. The ones that they find in his garden, they eat. Isn't that just amazing? All these creatures that we find in this planet are just fascinating. Look at those antennae. That's how this millipede sees the environment around it. Much like we use our eyes and our senses, this millipede uses those 2 appendages on the front of its head. Awesome. Let's put you back where we found you, big guy, and cover you up so that you can stay hidden. All right. Now we've come to that portion of the day where I have to say goodbye. Thank you very, very much for joining myself and VM and Herbie on the bushwalk this afternoon, or this morning at least anyway. We'll catch you a little bit later, and have a nice day wherever you are.
It's always wonderful to be on the walk with Steph and see all those beautiful little creatures that he manages to find. What is running through there? A small antelope, possibly a little steenbok, everybody, just off to the left. Oh, 2 of them, there they go. Don't know if you'll get a view very quickly. There it goes. A shy little steenbok. You can see how it's trying to hide away from us. So we've at least seen the 2 smallest antelope in this area, the steenbok and the duiker. As I was saying, it's wonderful to see those little things on walks too, like a millipede and that. Very, very interesting. But nice to see these little antelope. And the steenbok, funnily enough, and why we saw a pair of them, is generally the steenbok are monogamous, so they end up mating for life. They'll stay in a pair, and they'll stay in the same territory or the same area, this pair, the male and female. Obviously, if something happens to one or the other one will then go and find a new mate, but they do end up spending most of their life together, which is very interesting for antelope. Very different to some of the other species, where, for example, in impala, a male will have a huge harem. He'll have a number of females which he'll try and mate with, and that's mainly during the rutting season. If he's big enough and strong enough to keep away other males, he'll be able to cover a number of females, but then he will be challenged again the following year by another male who will most likely take over that area and then try and mate with females. Michael, you want to know if all the ewes in an impala herd are all related? No, Michael, they won't be. So there'll be, I mean, there's a possibility that a male has possibly, if he's successful, he may cover 10, 15 or 20 females within a herd, and their offspring, technically, they are his then, so they could potentially be related in a sense, but also you'll have other males coming in and mating with those females too. During the rut, there's a lot of males that constantly fight for dominance, and different males will mate with the females within a particular herd. So it's not to say that the females or the ewes within that herd are all related. They could potentially be from other males. But if one male is very successful, he could cover quite a number of females. Hang on. I hear something, but I can't see it. Little bird. And it sounded like an owl. I could be mistaken. It sounded like the beginning calls of a little owl. I just want to have a look quickly and scan. This would be great. A little highlight for the end of the drive. Sounded like a little pearl-spotted owl. Am I mistaken? Sure. And in this tree, this dead tree with these very grey branches, this little bird will be very, very well camouflaged. I'm just going to reverse a little bit more. Just change our angle a little bit. Yeah, I'm like looking for a needle in a haystack. Come on, I'm sure I heard it calling. Eggsy, do you see anything yet? It appears as if all these little birds are evading me this morning. Anyway, that's the way it goes sometimes. No luck with our tracking this morning, or some of these little owls. But a wonderful morning nonetheless. It was great to be out here, and we did have a wonderful morning driving around and finding the odd bird and little things. Let's head back to Jamie so she can say goodbye and end the show. Goodbye from myself and Eggsy on camera. And we'll see you this afternoon. Goodbye, everyone.
Well, no luck on my side, I'm afraid. The really bad news is they're not where I was sort of hoping they were going to be, which is in the tree that they know and love, and that we've seen them in on a relatively regular basis in the past. And they just aren't here. And I have searched and I have scoured in the same way that Byron has, and both of us have come up empty-handed, which is quite devastating. We tried though, and I better show you a picture of what it looks like, because otherwise you're going to go away completely empty-handed, and we'll have to try again this afternoon. This isn't actually the best diagram I've ever seen of a white-faced scops owl. It's a tiny, tiny little owl, and the cool thing about them, and the reason why we were so excited to find them for you, is they shapeshift. So this is their normal sort of shape, this is their normal phase, where they're squat and fat little things, all fluffed out and beautiful, but they do stretch up and look a little bit, they start to imitate a stick. They go very thin, and very tall, and they look completely different. And usually this pair, you'll see one of them in that form and one of them in the slightly puffed out fat form. So, I don't know, we'll have to try again this afternoon. I'm sorry, we tried. Byron and myself, both of us tried to find them. Luckily we were given a very definite tree. We were told they were in a bush willow. That's a bush willow, that's a bush willow, that's a bush willow, that's a bush willow, that's a bush willow. It's the most common tree species that we get out here. We're going to try again this afternoon. I was so hoping we could see them. They're such fascinating birds. Let me go slowly. We've still got 60 seconds. It's unlikely I'm going to spot them. No. Not this morning. But we did have a wonderful, wonderful morning spent with the impala lamb, the ground hornbill, the lion, the plum-coloured starling that disappeared and then came back again. All in all, I think Jean-Ray and myself have had fun today. Hello, impala. And so a big thank you on that note to Jean-Ray for his wonderful camera work. As always, it was not his fault we were rocking like a boat earlier. It was in fact the camera's fault. And a big thank you to all of the Safari Live crew, for the cameramen, the directors in final control, which today is Rebecca, assisted by Jerry, and of course Alex, working to keep our tech all functioning. And a big thank you to all of you, most importantly, for joining us on our sunrise safari. I hope you had a joyful time. And for those of you celebrating Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. To the rest of you, I hope you have a wonderful time regardless. See you in the sunset safari. Bye-bye, everybody.